How high?
Okay, so just like the jump will be perfect, but
Okay, how much? Is that gonna be too high? Be about right here? Two? Okay.
and I could.
Oh, this too high.
Is this can I set this on here or no?
Let's give a breath on shit.
No, I'll mess
Cause
up.
I'm ready to log on my phone.
I know, he gonna bring me.
What's up, Ross?
You, man, hey, what's going on?
You all right?
I just want my baby drum, man.
Yeah. We can already start though.
Hey,
Okay. Where we over here?
Okay, we're gonna do the Kwanzaa thing before we get into it.
Oh, okay.
And Sam, you wanna brief Ras Lidj on how you gonna do this?
Yeah, how we want to do it?
Explain to him how you want to do this.
Y'all want the soft? Y'all might want this cushion chairs, bro.
yeah.
Yeah, straight back.
Okay.
Yeah, you might want the cushion chairs. Yeah. Leave that for the people to get here late.
Are you putting everybody up here now?
You mean there's somebody coming in there for me?
Oh, you gonna put everybody up here now? Okay. So you could come on, man.
Okay.
You're not gonna put Bomani up there. You're gonna let Bomani sit because he got to set up, right?
Yeah.
All right.
How you doing, brother?
I appreciate y'all.
Man, thank you so much for your time. Had a question for you. So we were just gonna open up, explaining the program and the candlelight. I got 20 minutes carved out for each speaker. Did you want me to do a Q&A with you, or did you just want to do like speaking about Ujima and how you know?
I want to know this program. Over here,
I want to fit within the program. So whatever in the program, guys,
Yeah.
I can speak towards that or within that,
Okay.
and still incorporate
Okay.
whatever they need to know
Okay. Cool.
regarding my thing.
Cool. We're
Bob.
gonna give each guest.
Baba said, go. So you know there's water for everybody on the table.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll talk
Yeah.
about what you do and all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Right there? Okay. Hey, come on. When you make it back, I want to give you that stuff, man. So
Yeah,
you
I'm
check it
coming
out.
back. I'm coming
All
back.
right, I'll see you when you get back.
First, I gotta make this run right quick.
Corcoran. Okay. Okay. Yes.
Abarigani.
Ujima.
Abarigani.
Ujima.
All right, one more time, y'all. One more time. Abarigani.
Ujima Abarigani.
All right, Ujima. Very, very powerful principle. I want to thank you guys for coming out here this afternoon. For those of y'all who aren't familiar with this operation, who I am, all of that, my name is Sam P.K. Collins. I'm a journalist, an educator, and the local coordinating committee person for what's called the LIC of the Pan African Federalist Movement. So the Pan African Federalist Movement, this is our effort to create a united African states within a generation. And there's a whole history behind that we'll be more than happy to go into today, but not too much. Our purpose here today is to bring these fine artists up here pretty much to celebrate Ujima and to educate the community more about how artistry fits into that principle of collective responsibility and just us pulling this together as a community and how art gets expressed and all of that. So this is why we're here today, and we're allowing our all-star panel to speak about how they're doing that. We're going to give each of them an opportunity to do that individually, but we'll also open up the floor for questions. And, you know, all in all, this is in the interest of promoting Pan-African federalism, a system in which pretty much there's not one particular leader, but we're all united under what's called a federation. So instead of there being a president of this country, a president of that country, we're all under what's called a United African States. And this was a concept that came after the independence movements, where you had two blocks. You had the Casablanca bloc, which was Mali, Guinea, Ghana. They wanted pretty much to create a united African states where all African leaders reported to, whether it be a governor or a federation, and power was consolidated that way. But you had another bloc, which was called the Monrovia bloc. They wanted to espouse nationalism, and they wanted all the newly independent countries to do their own thing and to gradually move towards federalism. I'm not going to downplay anybody's perspective. I'm not going to, say anything necessarily bad, but what I will say is that if we look decades later, we're going to see where that's gotten us. And if you read the newspapers, if you look on the TV, if you're listening to the conversations all around the world, even we're leaning towards a period of globalization, but also a reemergence of nationalism. Because of the fact that we've gone through this period where everybody wants to be blind and people want to espouse diversity and we are the world, there's a certain group among us who wants to go back to nationalism. And they've been putting stuff in there for quite a time now. So they've been organizing themselves and they've been clicking up, they've been consolidating power. And the question here today, as we allow our panelists to speak, is what are we going to do? Are we going to do the same? Are we going to recognize what battlefield are we in? And are we going to consolidate power in this way? So even though the Pan African Federalist Movement is speaking about the political unification of Africans around, we have to understand that when it comes to Africans, we're not involved in politics or politricks. That our politics is more than just who's a governor, who's a leader, but it's more about how we interact with each other as a community. And the artists are the main politicians, so to speak, in our community because they document our trials, tribulations, and triumphs. And they're there pretty much to give us a pulse of what's happening in our communities. So we have to honor our artists, and this is what pretty much today is about. So I'm encouraging y'all to sit back, relax, get a lot of good information, and if you haven't done so already, sign the petition in the back for United African States. Because right now we want to get a sense of who in DC is really galvanizing toward that goal. And understand that the goal of United African States in no way nullifies what you're doing as an individual and in your specific groups. What you're saying is that you are in agreement that we need to unify, that we need to continue doing what we've been doing for the past few decades, but as an organized collective. That is all that you're saying. You signing the petition, you joining the local coordinated committee of the Pan African Federalist Movement says nothing about you leaving your group or you stop doing what it is that you've been doing. As a matter of fact, we need you to keep doing what you're doing so that when the campaign is over and we turn into a Congress, that we can continue to act as a unified unit. Can I get an ashe to that, y'all? All right, so there's a lot that I just dropped on y'all today, but I do this for every program just so that you guys know that we're not here just to be here, that there's a reason for the season, that we need to practice these Kwanzaa principles. Not only that, we need to show people that there are people out here doing this. Before I stop and let Baba Sangor get us into the mode here for the afternoon, one thing I want to say is that I enjoy doing the work. I enjoy being among the people. I enjoy being with like-minded people. But, a lot of people always say, well, we always do a lot of talking. There's not a lot of work being done, this, that, and the third. And I understand that sentiment. But as you'll see here today, these people, when they're not talking to us, they're out there doing the work. So I will allow them pretty much to show us, not just tell us, but to show us. So, give them your respect, give them your attention, and most of all, give them some really good questions, when we're done talking and politicking with them. Thank you, family.
Y'all, we don't have to have electricity. This is a blacktricity affair. And I'm going to break that up for you during this time of Kwanzaa. But like I said, I really don't need the mic. I really don't need the mic. I'm going to let Ras Lidj hold the mic. So the bottom line is, brothers and sisters, that Kwanzaa most of everybody that's here kind of relates to what Kwanzaa is all about. First of all, let's cast away all personality stuff, because I done heard too much stuff around personality around Kwanzaa, and I want to make it clear it's bigger than a person. And even though Dr. Bomani Armah may have come up with the concept, he didn't create nothing. He recreated Africanity or Blacktricity. So Kwanzaa don't belong to Bomani Armah, and we're not pro and con here. We're not talking against nor for. But what we are talking about is the collective work and responsibility of the collective of African people in North America. We don't call it America in the Pan African Federalist Movement. We call it North America. And the reason we do that is because if we want to Sankofa, we have to get rid of Eurocentric terminologies. Now, if you understand what I'm saying about continents, the African continent was carved up during the Berlin Conference by someone else for their benefit, not ours. So we want to look at today going forward, like Sheikh Anta Diop warned us, in building a federalist movement, we're looking at the continent as a whole. So I know people say, well, I like Ghana, I like Rwanda, I like Kenya, I like Ethiopia, I like Tanzania, I like Namibia. We like them all. But the whole African continent that's been divided has to be whole again in order to make African people whole again. So regardless to what religious persuasion you may come from, regardless to what political persuasion you may come from, if you're African, you're first world people. And that means all other people are your either lost soul children or children that are obedient. Now, maybe I need to clarify that because I'm a race-first person. I'm a Garveyite, served as President General of the UNIA for 8 years. I'm currently serving as the Chief North America organizer for the Pan African Federalist Movement, and also the first Assistant President General of what is called RIC 2020. But I'm not going here to talk about RSC, Rehabilitation Committee 2020 of the government of the UNIA, because that's coming in about a week. Baba Mosi knows exactly what I'm talking about. Y'all will find out, but stay tuned, because 2020 is a centennial year of building a government under Marcus Garvey, which is very tied to the Pan African Federalist Movement. As Brother Sam so clearly articulated, it's critical that anybody doing anything to uplift black people need to be connected in with the Pan African Federalist Movement, because we need to be a whole people. And we know everybody ain't going to come along, but those of us that do come along, we have a convention coming up in October 2020 in Atlanta, Georgia, where various different Pan African Federalists of North America will be there to articulate what they've been doing and what we want Africa to do for us. Because when we talk about a whole Africa, we're not talking about the continental Africans. We're talking about Africans north, south, east, and west of the whole planet. That's very important, because Africa lost a great thing when the transatlantic slave trade took place, and now that brain drain is important. Also, we lost a great deal because the continent is now being exploited still today, neocolonialism. So why do I say all of this on the collective work and responsibility, Ujima? Because if we're going to be collective, we got to get away from our individual personalities. That's not to say that you don't study our ancestors who are living. Please do that, because they're very much in the whirlwind, like Garvey said. But it is important for us to understand collective means everybody. Even those people who are asleep, we're working for them. We're praying that they come out of the consciousness. It's a pleasure being in Southeast DC here at WEAC Radio, because too often many people forget this Anacostia was a powerful black community. And even though gentrification is taking place, there's still a lot of powerful Africans still here. Ain't that right, Ras Lidj?
Yes, sir.
So we can never forget about Southeast. It's a part of, I like to say, Watch Shaitan, DC, Banneker City. And now Kwanzaa was started in 1966, and here in Washington, D.C., I've been studying Kwanzaa and celebrating Kwanzaa since 1968. My 11th grade year in high school, I caught hold to Kwanzaa. And believe me, Washington, D.C. has been one of the pillars of keeping the legacy alive. As you can see, Kwanzaa is taking place all over the city all the time. So today, we're going to be very quick, because we have some great guests here to tie in. See, we got to get away from not practicing our culture. We got some of the greatest artists, versatility, that are here, and collective work and responsibility. They're going to take care of talking about what they've been doing collectively and how they've been responsible in their various different agendas. Genres, is that not right, Sam? So, without any further ado, we know we need unity, umoja, which is to strive for and maintain unity in the family, community, nation, and race. I want to take that a little deeper. because the Pan African Federalist Movement is not anti anybody, neither is the UNIA. We pro us. And sometimes we put too much energy in giving the so-called oppressor too much power. You see, we could not be oppressed if we didn't get hoodwinked. And technically speaking, we've been free and united and in love and harmony on the planet far longer than we've been on the bottom and oppressed. So you can't tell me we can't get back up. What comes around goes around. But unfortunately, as Dr. Francis Cress Welsing teaches us, we are the biggest problem. We are holding the system of white supremacy in place. We buy their cars, we buy their homes, we pay their bills, we do everything. We build their countries. I mean, everywhere. And Africa is still being exploited by not just Europe, but all manner of brothers and sisters who are our lost soul children who come to the motherland, Africa, which is the cradle of civilization, and take from it. So it's our responsibility not just to complain about that, to replace that. And that is going to take place. The question is how soon? And we say 2020 and the 21st century, say by the next generation, our younger brothers and sisters have to have all the correct information. We need to stop fighting each other. Collective work and responsibility. Unity is critical. And what I mean by taking it higher, there's a galactic thing that took place. A cosmic magnetism that took place during this solstice that we've been waiting on for 47,000 years. Did y'all hear me? 47,000 years. Now, I don't got time to break it all up for you. But if you want to read about it, go get Ancient Future by Wayne Chandler. And if you want to go to Facebook, go to my page, and you can read a little bit about why this solstice was so powerful. So the universe is wide open. The gates are open for consciousness. But if we continue to play around and not raise our consciousness and collective work and responsibility and unity, unifying with what's happening in the only orderly system known to man's solar system. So I'm not here to debate with anybody, but I challenge anybody, tell me a system that's never going to go down other than the solar system. If the solar system goes down, then, you know, Earth is just a rock in the sky, we're in trouble. And we are killing the planet, or we're allowing the planet to be killed. So we can't just save humanity, we got to save the planet that humanity is on. Garvey says science by excellence, we can do it. We built Technukes, pyramids. So I'm going to light the emoji, and I want y'all to say emoji real quick. Emoji. I know should have strike it. These spiders burn my fingers. Okay, there we go. Emoji. So we gotta have unity. The next one is one I like a lot. It's Kuju Chakalia. When you send that vibe to children, they think it's a song because it's got so much rhythm. Kuju Chakalia. Kuju Chakalia, self-determination. To define ourselves, name ourselves, create for ourselves, speak for ourselves, instead of being defined, named, created for, and spoken for by others. I'm going to break that up a little more because these are universal principles. And that's why I said, you know, you spend time talking about Karinga, you got to get real with the principles because this is the principles. Ain't got nothing to do with the individual. It has everything to do with the principles. So I know a lot of people don't understand, but that's okay. But for a long time, we've been celebrating this time, and I ain't joking. I've seen some people I haven't seen in a long time. So it's good to come together as Africans. So let me move forward. Kuju Chakalia, self-determination. So let's light the red. Okay. Fire. Yes! All right. Kuju Chakalia. So you see the candle. I'm not going to break down Kwanzaa. If you don't know about it, y'all got to get a Kwanzaa booklet and learn about it. But praise the red, the black, and the green, brothers and sisters being redeemed. Open up your eyes and see. And once again, the UNIA brought that flag forward for universality. But what you got to understand is God created red, black, green even before that. Watermelon. I'm going to say that again. Watermelon is red, black, and green if you get the right watermelon. Got black seeds in it, right? So God created that. So red, black, and green, everybody debating over it, calling it a liberation flag and this and that. No, it's a universal African flag. If it's Africans on Mars, if it's Africans on Jupiter, it's for them. It's for Africans everywhere to come together. Red, black, and green. Praise the red, the black, and the green. Yes. Ujima, that's why we're here today. Collective work and responsibility to build and maintain our own stores, shops, and other businesses and to profit from them together. Today we're going to talk about collective work and responsibility where it relates to artistic expression. The Pan African Federalist Movement can go nowhere without arts and culture. Arts and culture are the root of everything. There is no civilization nowhere that didn't have the foundation of arts and culture. And we know who the baddest artists and the baddest culturated people are, right? African people. We dance with rhythm, we sing with rhythm, we move with rhythm, and everybody want it. But they don't want to give us the proper due respect. But many of our artists who have been struggling in the vineyards, some who produce their own selves, some who have created certain artistic things called like Reggo. We got some who play jazz, but I know he came up on go-go, my stepson, Brother Corcoran. We got a sister here that's gonna break it up for us. Ain't no joke about expressing the visual arts. If you can't see it, you can't be it. If you can't be it, you're not gonna see it. Y'all hear me? So it's very important, and I know they're gonna break all that up, so I'm not gonna spend too much time on that. I just wanna make it clear though, the reason the Pan African Federalist Movement this second year is here, We Act Radio, is because everybody goes every other places, and we decided we want to come back to Southeast DC, and we wanted Southeast. I mean, no offense, because around the corner tonight, Union Temple is going to be kicking the blacktricity. But we want to make sure this is documented, and believe me, brothers and sisters, when we say Pan African Federalist Movement, there are 8 regions functional. We got 12 that we work in the bill. And those regions are in the United Kingdom, all over Africa, East, West, and South, in the Caribbean, and in North America. We consider North America, Canada, and the so-called US of A. And so it's very, very important for us to recognize, that's me there, don't feel no way. So, you know, it's very important for us to recognize that we're going to share this with other people all over the world. So whether or not you're present or not, guess what? Probably didn't have no seats for other people because the ancestors got them all. Because they're up in here, right? So we don't feel no way about none of that. But we do know that the Pan African Federalist Movement is building strong, and Brother Sam and Brother A. Peter Bailey and myself and others in the Washington, D.C. area are doing everything we can so that Banneker City can be linked in with all the Africans in North America, and the Africans in North America can be linked in with all the Africans around the world. Now, in closing, let me say, before I light that camera and close out, Sam, and turn it over to you, we're absolutely clear that this is being driven by the ancestors. The very Swahili that we're speaking, we have to give praise to Dr. Julius Nyerere. And we thank the African Union for now making that an official language of Africa. But we don't support top-down leadership. We support bottom-up leadership. Now, that's not to say that we don't support various aspects of the African Union. But as Brother Sam articulated, they went the different direction than some of the progressives like Emperor Haile Selassie and Kwame Nkrumah, Jomo Kenyatta, Nnamdi Azikiwe, and folks like that, and Julius Nyerere wanted to go in. So consequently, we're where we are today. We're not a whole Africa. But Ghana is rolling now. Different other countries are too, by the way. I want to let y'all know Freetown was the first spot that Africans returned to from the UK and from other places around the world. Freetown, Sierra Leone, okay? Not Liberia. But no disrespect to Liberia. I know he's a first-generation African born here. But we want all of Africa. We don't want a part of Africa. And that's why that's why other people can exploit the continent, because it's divided. We want a unified continent, and we want every African, regardless of whether you've been to Africa or not, to have every right to the continent. That's critical, because Africa needs power. And Africans in North America got all kinds of nationalist power that continues to go back to Mr. Charlie. So you got to bring that out of that and start going to Ghana and different places and support it. So we say collective work and responsibility. And I'm going to now write one of the green candles. Okay. Ujima. Ujima. Now, brothers and sisters, I want to make it absolutely clear to you. Brother A. Peter Bailey, who worked with Malcolm X, tells us all the time. Last year, he was right here doing Kwanzaa. We did self-determination last year, Kucha Chocolate here, and he made it clear. We're not looking for those people that don't understand federalism. And we ain't talking about Eurocentric federalism. I want to make that clear. Everything Europe got, or everything Europeans got, they got from Africans. They learned capitalism because they studied the marketplace. They learned communism because they saw communalism. So y'all understand? See, we get all twisted and all caught up in ideology because we continue to deal with 400, 500, and 600 years ago. But if we go all the way back like Tony Browder, and we are clear that we built the tech dukes, that we need to do that, we need to be busy. And the Pan African Federalist Movement is very clear. We don't need brothers and sisters who are going to come fight over, well, I'm in this ideology. I'm a socialist, I'm a communist, I'm a nationalist, I'm a Pan. No. Are you doing anything for Africans? And we will teach you how to be a federalist. Because federalism, as Sheikh Diop clearly stated, brings us whole. That's what it does. Now, it doesn't mean everything's going to be perfect, because we're going to get at the table and we're going to rumble. But at least we all at the table. We don't need to be away from the table rumbling. We need to be around the table rumbling and reasoning and trying to work out our differences so we can come out with some kind of work for our people. Because our children are crying and dying and our ancestors are waiting and watching. So without any further ado, Abargan. I hope everybody understands. We don't got time to mess around. Kwanzaa time is a reminding time of 2019.
Don't let Ujima go out, man.
I just will go all of them out because I'm not going to keep them burning because we got the fire here. But I just want to do that as a demonstration because it's very important. Plus my candle's been used several, I broke one over. They've been all over the place about to most back up. But y'all got the drift. I have been involved with the United Black Community for many years and I'm still very involved with the UNIA, but I am committed to see our next generation get all that they need. Because we do not need to be passing on our squabbling to the next generation. The next generation is going to have enough to deal with on their own. And we should be wise enough to understand squabbling. I was taught by somebody who taught, and I'm closing here, Sam. Honorable Charles L. James told, no, I'm closing here because it's important, because I really want to hear from them. It is critical for us to understand, if you can't hammer it out on the apple of reason, leave it alone until you can. Because you're not going to get anywhere gatting your brother or your sister. It's going, that shot that you shooting at them is coming back at you some kind of way because you're going to pay. And I ain't talking about in their courts. So we need to get away from that. And we also need to get away from talking about our children being lost. They're not lost. They're confused and they've been abused because we have not provided them properly with what they need. The miseducation in the public school systems, the lack of social services, the total fraud with rent. I mean, we could go across the board, but we can change that. If Africa is the richest continent, got gold, diamonds, and all of that, we ain't got no business having no homeless brothers and sisters on the street, and people don't have nothing to eat. So when we talk about holistic change, what they say, oh, the Pan African Federalist Movement is going to do that? No. We're going to do it by hooking up all the organizations together and the different people and doing it. Because there's a lot of good stuff going on. You're not going to hear about it on CNN and on MSNBC. I know brothers and sisters building in Africa. And so I know BRIC 2020 is going to be doing a lot of work globally with brothers and sisters doing a lot of work. And you ain't got to go to Africa. I suggest you do. So you can feel it and see what's going on. And I know Corcoran has been there. You've been there, sister. You've been to the continent? Okay, well, yeah, these brothers been to the continent. I know I've been there. Baba Mosi been there. I'm telling you, I ain't the same since I came out of Senegal. And then when I went to Ghana, oh my goodness, the electricity just took me to a whole nother level. But it's not just West Africa. It's East Africa, North Africa, South Africa. All of Africa. And I love the fact that Ghana has opened the gates because people like to kind of criticize, but more African people have traveled to Ghana that have never been to Ghana in less than a year than in 40, 50 years. Y'all hear me? That's deep. And you also got to understand Kwame Nkrumah is living and his daughter is with the Pan African Federalist Movement. In fact, we was in Ghana in December last year. And we was in Senegal and where it grew out of. And guess what? We just had a big meeting in Mali where our headquarters is at, which is the root of culture, roots and culture, music. For most people don't know that. And when I talk about Mali, I'm talking about the empire. I'm not talking about the country. When you talk about Mali, the empire, you're talking about a much bigger land mass. Yes. And that's where a lot of arts and culture come out of Mali. Yes. And that's where the president of Mali has endorsed what we're doing. But we can't go with one president. We have to get all of them. And any one of them that don't, the people got to rise up and make the change. Y'all hear me? Because leadership means pain, blood, and death. It don't mean a Mercedes-Benz. It don't mean you making money and your people starving. That's backwards. That's Eurocentric. That's why we got Donald Trump. That's a Eurocentric plan. But an African plan is the people hold leadership accountable. If the people don't got what they're supposed to have, they remove them. That's African way. And that's how we survived all these years before we fell under the system of white supremacy. So I say a Barghani, which means what's happening. The Pan African Federalist Movement is really alive and well. The UNIA is alive and well, and there's many other organizations alive and well working with us. And whatever you are doing is relevant to your self-development. We need you. So please sign the petition. Get the call, answer the call to the ancestors. And look, Sam ain't gonna press you. Sam ain't gonna put pressure on you and say if you're not doing no work, you're not with us. All he's gonna do is to keep you abreast of what's going on. Now this happens to be a form of music. We know musicians and artists that do artistic work, they have to do their work to raise the consciousness of our people. That's critical work. And I want to let y'all know, Baba Mao, Muda Baruka, Yusu Endure have endorsed the Pan African Federalist Movement. And they say as soon as the people got it, we will take care of that. So what we're doing locally is already being done internationally. One God, one aim, one destiny.
Give him a hand, y'all. Thank you. Thank you.
That definitely met my expectations. I appreciate, as always, Baba Sangor just laying out the foundation and really reminding us why we're here on all fronts. And once again, I just want to thank the guests for being here. This is what I'm thinking. So initially, I had it in my mind that each person was going to be allotted a certain amount of time to just talk about Ujima and why they do what they do. But I think a conversation would be easier, more feasible, and just more fun for the audience. I think that if we all just get in conversation, that'll be better. So I'm gonna just ask a question, and then at certain points, all y'all gonna take it. At some points, if one of y'all want to take it, then that's fine too. And that's the way that we gonna do it, y'all. Y'all guys like that? All right, cool. So, for those of y'all who just came in, we got our guests on the stage. We got Mama Kyna Clemons. She is a quilter and a very, very highly esteemed homeschool mother. Not only known in the D.C. area, but known all across the United States, and just doing her thing. Let's give her a hand, family. Let's give her a hand. All right. Immediately to her left, we got Corcoran Holt. He is a bassist and just an all around, musically inclined brother, a product of the DC public school system, I recall. Duke Ellington, just here to, and he has some stuff coming up to this in the upcoming week, I believe, right? That I want him to talk more about. Let's give him a hand, fam. Let's give him a hand. All right. Last but not least, for this evening, we got Ras Lidj here, a pioneer of his own musical genre, which is a hybrid of reggae and go-go music. Reggo?
Yes.
All right, yeah. So, just taking the ancestral sounds and taking it to a whole nother level, and I had an opportunity to go to see him perform. This was at the Pan African Festival earlier, yeah. So, real good sounds, and I've been following you. I know some good stuff happened on the continent recently, that if you don't mind, I would like for you to talk about. But it's just really good having you in the building, y'all. Let's give this brother a hand, y'all. Let's give him a hand. All right, so let's get to it. So my first question, if each one of y'all can just talk about Ujima, like collective works and responsibilities, what does that mean for you in your life and in your artistry? Whoever wants to go first.
Leave it to the ladies first.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, I want to thank Sam for inviting me to be here. It's an honor, and I'm happy to be on the panel with such esteemed men. And I want to give thanks to my husband, Babaji, for coming out to support. But the principle of Ujima is a very important principle for me, and I think it manifested in our life in a creative way when my husband and I created the Ujima Children of the Sun homeschool community. And it was a life-changing experience because in preparation for that, I had to go into deep study. I studied John Henry Clark, Sheikh Anta Diop, and Asa Hilliard, and I felt like the ancestors were speaking to me, and it was a call, as Baba Senghor said, a call, an answer to the call of the ancestors. And so that's how Ujima has been reflected in one aspect of our lives, but it's reflected in many, many ways.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm really glad to be here. Thank you, brother, for having me. Thank you, Baba Senghor, for having me. Well, Ujima, for me, it came present in my life at a very young age, probably at the age of, well, once I was born, but when I can remember, I would have to say when I was about 4 years old. Growing up here in Washington, D.C., I started drumming. Before I was playing bass, I was playing djembe, and I was a part of Wose, which is a drum and dance company. And it was all community involved, community developed, and my parents were part of a huge African community here in Washington, and I was raised in that community. And from a very young age, I was taught that we all needed to support one another in order to get where we wanted to go. And that's exactly what's happened my entire life. I was told from a young age I could be whatever I wanted to be. I had my parents, I had my babas, I had my mamas, I had my brothers and my sisters, and we would all hold each other accountable for moving things in the right direction as far as the community is concerned, and artistically. I was always supported and told, okay, you can do this. You could use your creativity, you could use your lineage, you could use what's in your DNA. Follow your elders. Listen to your elders. And basically that's what I've done. So coming from here, growing up here in Washington, going on to New York, I follow this principle of Ujima every single day, as well as all of the principles, going all the way back to unity. Because I believe there's nothing, in order for us to do anything, we have to do it together. So, Ujima came into my life from day one. But as I said, I can remember from 4 years old. And that's why I'm sitting here right here today, because of these principles. So I'm glad to be here.
Good, thanks. Wow. Okay, so again, I'm Ras Lidj, Reggo. Thank you for having me here. Likewise, I'm glad to be on the panel with these esteemed guests myself. Jump right into it, a lot like my brother here. I've been practicing Ujima. I come from a big family. My mother had 7, and we grew up in Linda, Poland, so she was like the mother of the entire community. I grew up next door to little Benny, originally from Rare Essence. My brother's an ancestor now. But always within my community, it's born into Gogo, right in Southeast. So always within my community, there was give back. In Linda, Poland, back in those days, we had a community center where my mother taught charm school, and across the hall, Mr. Harrington taught all of us, even some of the guys you see, original Rare Essence members. We were being taught music right there in a place called the Baptist Center. So that's collective as a musician from my early, and like you, I was like 4 or 5. And then when you ask this question, I have to think one thing. The thing I love about talent is it has to take time to nurture and grow, because I can remember the days I wanted to sit on paddles like this, and I just hadn't grown into my season yet. I was not that ready as an artist, you know what I mean? I still needed to learn more, I still needed to do more, and I would see that, wow, you know? So I've arrived, thanks. But there was always other musicians who would give back within the go-go community itself. I too did a lot of theater coming up. I went to Ellington for a year, but I was too Southeast minded, so I didn't last in Ellington but a year. Ended up back in Ballou, you know what I mean? So, but the art and the talent was always there, even at Ballou. I came back here. I was a drum major for Ballou, and the year I came out. So community and giving back, and that just kind of energy has always been surrounded. That it has taken me up to my travels. It's been a part of my music. And let me add a twist to it just for a second here, because we all speaking up for. Don't get me wrong, as we say, we've done collective work and unity and responsibility. That does not come without trials and tribulation and challenge. So I don't want to tiptoe around that, because I'm sure as these two can tell you, there's always many doors shut. Many people will say, Reggo and Go-Go, what you doing? You from Southeast, you ain't no Jamaican. That ain't gonna work. oh man, you just want to smoke weed. You know? You see? But if you believe in it and you feel it and you stick to it, you know what I mean? And then you will see them same people join in to work with you as your team, you know, work within the realms of what is just the energy, it's the natural flow of the blacktricity, as my brother say, you know what I mean? So as we get into the talks, I do want to speak on my brother, the ancestor. You were talking about Union Temple Church.
Yes.
I was just in Africa for 2 weeks.
Yes.
Not long ago, not even a month ago, and the brother was there with me. He greeted me as I came off the plane. He and I met at UDC, brother and CeeLo.
Yes.
We met at UDC when I was a freshman there. We reconnected when I came here at Union Temple. And as I was saying that I was going to Africa, he said, me and the Queen gonna see if we can meet you there. And when I came off the plane, South Africa Air, he was right there to greet me, Akwaba, he and his Queen. You know, he stayed 2 weeks after me, came home, and he transitioned. So when you say the ancestors are in here, filling these seats, I think it's by that brother that I ended up here today myself. The ancestor in the building, you know? Bless.
Thanks for sharing that.
I want to follow up because both of you, I'm so honored to be on this panel with you. I'm a late bloomer. Not to talk too much about myself, but I grew up in Des Moines, Iowa, and there was no consciousness, no black consciousness. No, at one point I was the only African American in the whole doggone school. Okay, so for the divine spirit to awaken, us so late, my husband and I in life, we have 7 children. And so I'm just so in awe to be in your presence, because what you have is a gift. What your parents gave you is a gift. And as I said, my husband and I have 7 children, and our children are conscious. My baby just went through a traditional rites of passage. That was the divine spirit that selected her. So for anybody who, is hopeless, or they feel like we're not going anywhere as a people, we're not nation building, we're not getting to that, that's not true, because we have a whole generation of children who, I'm 56. I don't know how old you are. I'm telling myself, but I'm like that. What that baby boomer, that later generation, and so keep doing what you're doing, brother. It's beautiful. Your drumming, your djembe, all of that is beautiful. It's something that many of us African Americans did not have as a part of our culture, and now we're embracing it and we're loving it and loving you.
And the convo got off to a really good start, so I'm just really curious about, just really thinking about what each of y'all said. Like, at what point in your development do you think you realized the cultural significance of your craft. You know, just being in the midst of all that. At what point did you think to yourself, like, man, like I'm really, you know, the guy or the woman with my hand on the dial that's really moving the people and using this art form to get them deeper in their consciousness? Like, what was that moment for you, if there was even one?
Wow. You know, that's what I set out to do every time I step on the stage and I perform, you know, for people. You know, sometimes musicians to say, or artists to say, you know, we get caught up. You know, sometimes we get caught up in performing for each other. You know, and me personally, I'm always looking to connect, you know, spiritually with those that are listening, and that's what this music is all about. And for me, I really am blessed because I knew I can go, like I said, I can go all the way back to when I was a little kid, when I first started drumming, and we used to do performances at Dance Africa, over at near Hot Feet Studios, dance place over in Northeast, you know, and we would perform, and the way the audience would react to us coming out and drumming, the vibrations of you know, what they were hearing. You know, from that moment there, I knew that that we could connect. You know, that I could connect with the community and connect with those that are listening. And then moving forward, once I started playing bass, I think it was it had to have been once I got into college, and I was in an environment coming from my African community here in Washington, and going to a predominantly white undergraduate school out in Virginia. I tuned in I had some time to myself just to focus on my craft and, you know, communicate, you know, with the bass and with the wood and with the ancestors that came before, and really get to study the music and study the culture, and kind of like develop a connection with myself and with the spirit. And then once I got out of college and I moved on to New York, and I started to grow, you know, as an artist. As you know, as a brother was saying, sometimes you always feel like you're growing and you're moving forward, and I started to feel that, and I began performing, and I kind of like started writing my own music. You know, I started putting my own music together and gaining my own voice, and I would have support, you know, from the community, such as Baba Senghor, you know, and he would be so moved in the audience, and not just him, and which could be biased because he is my stepfather, but from, you know, being kind of embraced from the community that I came up in, but also crossing over and going, you know, crossing over and touching people that didn't know who I was, you know, having opportunities to represent the country. We were talking about going to Africa. The first time I went to Africa, I was 12, but as a professional musician, I was able to do a State Department tour. And we went all from South Africa, starting in South Africa, went around East Africa. We started, where did we go? Cape Town, Uganda, Rwanda, Zambia, Mozambique, and, oh man, and I'm drawing a blank. We didn't go to Kenya. I wanted to go to Kenya very, very much. But, you know, just having that whole East Africa connection. My father, his whole mission was to bring us back to Africa. You know, kind of, in some words, hip us to where we came from. You know, because, you know, we kept running into people. He would say, we're going on this trip to Africa. They say, well, why are you going to Africa? What's the point of going to Africa? I mean, these are our people. I mean, as you all know, you know, they have no idea why. So, fortunately, I was able to do that, and I was able to connect with Africans in Africa and play jazz music and be able to put my African influence into my music, and then be able to touch people from here in the States to Africa. So these are, I know I'm kind of all over the place, but it started when I was a little kid, and it's been able to continue. You know, the older I'm getting, I'm 37 now. But, you know, it's able to continue. And then I have a 1-year-old son. So now he was at Kwanzaa yesterday.
Yes.
And I'm watching him.
Yes.
He'll be 2 next month. His name is Art. And he's connected.
Yeah.
like it's there. So I'm watching him, and I'm like, wow, man, this is contagious. You know, this is contagious, and this is, you know, so we're in a good place, you know, as far as that's concerned. So for me, that first moment was 4 years, and then it's the next moment is today. So it's just an everyday process for me. You know.
Nice. Y'all give a brother a round of applause, man. That's a journey. It's a true journey. To answer your question, for me, bro, it was gradual, but I don't think that I've ever accepted or received for myself that I'm doing, or connected. I just stay doing. You know, that's my thing, because I know my idea, my concept, or what I think I wanted to do, and I'm right behind my sister here. I'm 52. So when I came along in this area right here, again, I'm from a neighborhood that's not there anymore. Linda, Poland. You know, I'm Southeast Brandywine Street. Ballou, drum agent, 86, 87. It's my year I came out. A ragamuffin in the street because I should have came out 85. I made it out by the skin of my teeth in 87. So there was no We Act Radio. There was, you know, there was a good mom, a good dad in the community. You know, those of us who was talented, you boxed, you played football, you was sports. A lot of times coming through here, if you were a fine artist, it was thought of to be different. And it could be challenging for you growing up in this community here. You know, so me realizing throughout everything, you know, playing go-go, coming from Duke Ellington. I was in the theater department, but I took movement and dance, so when we had the front line in go-go, I was a dude who knew how to put on a show for my band. You know what I mean? I knew how to do the choreography. So, but that was different, because if you watch go-go and everybody up there, you know, this is cool. You got to stay like this with your tambourine and you can't put no... You know what I'm saying? So I was always coming from a different place from them days. And then as, you know, like I said, I got way following the path of a few of my older brothers, which wasn't right in life, you know? And it was Rastafari that wrote me in. I was sitting down among some elders one day. I first was introduced to them when I was working in the theater at UDC, but I ran into them again when I started working with another reggae band, my first reggae band. And they came through the studio, and it was Ras Lidj, Ras Iris,
Oh, yes.
you know, Sam Brown,
Yeah, man.
the Rastafari elders. And they caught wind of what I was doing and what I wasn't doing. And we just be reasoning like this. And when you're in a Rastafari reasoning, you know what a man say, well, one of the things Fit out did to me said, boy, I see you on the road. You put on the show and you're nice. You have all the girls in it. Yeah, I'm bigging up myself. Well, you know what Jah say about that? Well, don't ask me. You got to read it. Check out Proverbs 7 and 8. And you know, Rasta always keep us sword there. So, you read it, you read it. You know what I mean? So, ain't nobody, this is not no church where nobody preaching you and putting something down to you. And you have to sit there and listen and just take that part of what they take like in the church and go home and say, I've been fed. No, when Rasta reason, just like we sitting here passing his mic, this is reasoning. So again, to like you say, Single, it's not what house you walk in. A Rasta, a Muslim, a Jew, a Christian, a one house, one God, one aim, one destiny, for one cause, one purpose. Now within myself, why I could never embrace it, because once I became open and aware, again, remember, I'm from Southeast where there's a lot of despair. I want everybody to see what I'm seeing, feel what I'm saying. I'm coming back in a go-go. I saw Third World and, you know, at Howard University and things. I'm coming back in a go-go and I want people to know. But ain't nobody hear me, so I got to do the works. Now, when you know, brother, once you put the Congo on your head, once you get your jetted your antenna, you can't turn back.
Ain't no turning back.
So now, I'm challenged because in my band, you know, you have lyrics in go-go where a man say, boy, put your hand here and rub your girl and do this and do that. Call and response. You're supposed to say, well, put your hand in, do this and do. That's not my energies no more. I'm convicted. So, you know, the movement of reggae took me up. I ended up on tour with the I-Towns, legendary group from Jamaica, you know what I mean? Toured the country with them. And that's when I made my decision that it's gotta be this, you know what I mean? It's gotta be reggae. I'm from DC. It's gotta be reggae first, but I gotta keep my pocket beat. So that's how we get Reggo. So again, like I say, not a lot of support, not a lot of this. People think you crazy with this idea. You just gotta keep pushing. So I never accepted until, and let me tell you when I think I accepted it, bro. I was on the plane on the way back from Africa. And everything that happened for me in Africa, I went there. One Rasta man told me meet a man there in Ghana when I got there. That man was out the country. So I did 3 radio interviews, one with the GBC, Ghana Broadcast Central. That's like Good Morning America here. That's across the country. Yeah, it was like 4 radio. Everything that happened for me, long story short, we'll get into the particulars later, but it was by divine connection, bro. I can't tell nobody I had no contact. I'm on the street interviewing with one person. I run into a bank to have some quiet. And when I'm in the bank talking, a lady hears me and say, oh my God, he speaks so well. He's doing an interview. You're not supposed to be on the phone in the bank in Ghana. The security said, no, let him talk. Let him leave him alone, he okay. The lady in the bank who's talking to me, she's from the GBC. And I'm leaving Ghana the next day at 8 o'clock that night. She called me and tell me, get to the station now. You see, so when divine things happen, bro, it happens. You know what I mean? And I was, so to answer your question, after all of this, I was on the way back, and I've been doing music for years. I'm not in any of these popular go-go bands, so you're not going to hear my music on the popular, in the go-go mixes when they play them. They don't play Ras Lidj because Ras Lidj talking culture and consciousness. They want to hear something different, you understand? But Ghana had the thing lit and blazing on the radio, in rotation, heavy. And on the way back, man, something came on me, and when I was in the air, and I swear I cried like a baby. Straight up. I mean, my wife never seen me cry before. We've been together and she woke up, she said, what's wrong? But I think I realized then that it's happening. That's when it came over me, that it's happening now. But I still got to stand in the moment, and you know what I mean? Because this is new to me. It's a new, so that's it.
Hey, fam, let's give him a hand, y'all. Let's give him a hand, y'all. Man, powerful words. You know, before I let Mama Kyna go, I just wanted to acknowledge Baba Bomani. He came in the spot not too long ago, y'all. Let's give him a hand, y'all. Let's give him a hand. Cool. I'm gonna let him do his thing later, but I just wanted, he has a thing called, he'll explain it later, but Baba got bars, and he's really good about, he has a thing that he says about English and math, but I'll let him say it, but I just want to say that, he too is an integral part of this program, and like there's a reason why I asked him to come on, because he in particular has a way with the kids, especially like the middle schools and like the elementary school students. So like when we're talking about building a foundation and really getting the youth prepared for those next steps, Baba Bomani has been really good at doing that. So I'll let him talk about that later. But Mama Kyna, if you can just talk about the question once again, at what point in your career, in your craft, did you know or did you realize the cultural significance of what you were doing?
Okay, that's a real heavy question, and it's real. I'm under a lot of pressure following these two Baba's over here. But to answer the question, Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop talked about the Wahimi Misi. And I think for me, even though I grew up in Des Moines, Iowa, which was predominantly white, and I really didn't have any African culture, I didn't even see a map of Africa until I came to Howard University in 1980 at the age of 17. And so, it's just always been like my ancestral heritage. Like you guys talk about, it was there when you were born. That's your Mayutaquai. So my Mayutaquai, it's my ancestral heritage, but it wasn't, it was all in the fullness of time. I attended Howard University between 1980 and 1984. And so that was a pivotal point for me too, because I can remember having a professor my freshman year, and it was just like an epiphany, because he was talking about how less than 2% of the material means of production is controlled by, one population. And so that was just a light bulb that went off for me. And so it was just a journey. I think it's like if you use the metaphor of, a river, if you look at the Nile, is flowing from south to north, into the delta. But if you throw a pebble into that course, that life destiny, or into that river, which represents your course, your life destiny, the flow is going to go off. It's going to go off, but it's always going to come back to the source. And so that's kind of like how my life has been. Like, I've been getting little nuggets of consciousness here and there, but never really fully coming into the full-blown consciousness until after Baba and I had birthed our 7 children, and the divine spirit revealed to us that this was our purpose in life, in order to enlighten our children so that they can usher in the Wahimi Misi and continue to usher that in for the millennials and the generations that come behind them. But I think I want to give an example specifically. So for an education, so this is my Black Panther quilt. I'm a textile quilt artist. And so for me, I was in Southern California last spring presenting to a group of youth. And I don't know if you know, but African American children represent less than 25% of the student population in the California school district. And I didn't know that. And so I can relate to that, because that's how it was in Des Moines, Iowa for me. And so the epiphany was when there was a lady who preceded me, and she was talking, and the kids were kind of, they weren't really following along, but they were trying to get with it. But then when I came up and I pulled out my Black Panther quilt, and I started talking about their ancestral heritage and how they come from greatness, and I started talking about Mali, the kingdom of Mali, and Timbuktu, and how, Master Musa threw out so much gold, he threw off the economy of Kemet, for 10 years. They sparked up. They were like, wow, so you mean I come from greatness? I come from African kings and queens, and all that Black Panther represents for us in this season of time where we are as African people on the historical continual timeline. And so, that was another epiphany for me. And I think it just continues. It's never going to stop. Even after we enter into I feel like I'm an elder now, but ancestral, when we go into that realm, we don't know. We're going to still constantly, be learning and revealing. And so it's just a journey. It's a journey, and I'm loving it, and I'm just excited about what the Divine Spirit is doing in our lives.
Let's give Mama Kyna a hand, y'all. And the reason why I liked everybody's responses, but yours in particular, once I heard yours at the end, I think it really spoke to the fact that we all have different paths that we go along.
Yes.
And speaking for myself, a hurdle that I had to get through in immersing myself in the conscious community and being around people when we're reasoning is the fact that not one person has all the answers, and that there is no hierarchy on who knows much more about our history, about our ancestry, this, that, and the third, that we're all in this together. And that because I don't know today doesn't mean that I'm not better than you or that I can't learn, that there's not potential for learning, you know. So it's just very good, especially with us, with the change of a decade coming, just hearing about that, you know, it really makes the long haul game that much sweeter because you're not really in a race, you know, you're more so taking this step by step. With that being said, you know, I'm really interested in hearing about what you guys see ahead as far as 2020 is concerned, you know, because once the clock strikes 12 on January 1st, we're talking about the change of a year, right, and the change of a decade. So, you know, just given all that's been going on culturally, as far as people globally awakening, as far as, you know, different conflicts happening around the world, or even as far as your artistic trajectory, like, what do you foresee happening within the next decade, within the next year? Like, just give us your take on this whole situation.
I'd like to answer that. I have a short answer, and then I'll turn it over to the esteemed brothers. But like I think for 2020, it's just a continuation of growth and prosperity for African people. We talk about an African consciousness, but if we don't have capital, we can't do anything. And so I think for 2020, we're going to see us as African people coming together economically, more politically, socially, like you said, with the federation, you know, tearing down the divisions that have been, the social constructs that have been constructed by our enemy to keep us divided. But the economic piece is absolutely essential because money, okay, we have favor as African people, but we need money to carry out the work that the Divine Spirit has given to us. And we're generating it. We have it. We already know the statistics right here in Southeast, what the average medium income is and how much money is generated here, just in this community alone. So when we learn the powerful principle of collective economics and we're able to trust each other and bring our money to the table collectively like the Asians do and like our brothers and sisters in the diaspora do, for us on this side of the Atlantic, we missed something. Because our African brothers and sisters throughout the Caribbean got the principle because they couldn't walk into a capitalistic bank and get a loan. Because the British built the railway, and then when the African brothers fought for freedom, and the Europeans left, so they just left them with the infrastructure. So they had to pull their money together. And, you know, that's where I think Spirit is leading us now, is the economic piece, because we have to have the money to flow back and forth to the continent, to build on the continent, to build here, to take control of our communities, and to continue to nation build.
Powerful answer. Powerful.
Thank you.
For me, it's a heavy question because as going into 2020, me personally, even though this is all about collectivity, I'm kind of like reaching a point where I'm a new father, so you know we're going into a new decade. So I'm raising a young black boy, a young child in this world. So I have a lot on my mind. Basically, I have a lot on my mind. Artistically, you know where I want to go. Also as a father, what I want to do and what I want to do around the world. So man, it's you know, and then as I mentioned a little while ago earlier, my father, he had started to build. He has properties in Senegal, and he transitioned at the end of 2018. So I'm looking to get more involved in what he was doing, as far as bringing arts and culture to Africa, as well as here in America, and kind of like connecting things and working with different people in the community to do such, you know, to just raise, just continue to raise awareness here in Washington, also in New York, and I'm trying to build a community because I came up in a very strong community here. And I think that, you know, right now, as far as things are looking rather, you know, on the up and up, you know, as we were saying, you know, as far as globally, you know, so I want to tap into that as much as I can. But right now, going into this, I'm trying to figure out how to continue to grow as an artist, but continue to grow as a father and then as a man of a community. So I'm leaning on, I'm reaching out to my elders in support, as I always have, you know, and I'm trying to just pass this information on to my son. But first thing I want to do, you know, I do want to start to kind of like connect the dots as far as what my father started, and continue to do that. You know, I want to go over to Senegal, and I want to, you know, try to figure out how to somewhat continue to do things that he was continue his dream, but in my own way. However that may be, you know, that's what I'm looking for. So there's a lot happening, but you know, I'm just taking it one day at a time. So we'll see what happens as it continues to go, you know. But you can answer this better than I can.
So, where are we, people? We spoke about growth. We spoke about unity, collectivity, finance, right? Continuation. Each of us individually have taught younger generations African, been to Africa, experienced Africa. Connectivity, collectivity, with the rest of us who's doing it, moving forward. The year return in Ghana, I don't want to call the exact name, but I heard that the embassy gave away something. Y'all research it for yourself. I ain't going to do your homework for you. Something, thousands of visas away. So that means there's many of us who have gone, are going, have been, that we can continue to connect to. This is not the old Southeast. We are awakened now. So when you're asking what's happening, what we're going to be doing, that's a lot of what we're doing. Within finance, okay, Marcus Garvey said, do not, and you spoke of this when you started, do not quit and leave your day jobs. In fact, you're going to need that for repatriation, reparation. And it may not look like it within the black scope of what we're doing or what we're building, that this Western job you have may not be significant, but it is at the moment. And let me tell you how. For me personally, and this is away from the music, which is going to enhance the music within giving back. I went to Ghana, like anybody can tell you, I've been awakened, okay? I stumbled across, bro, because you know what we go through as musicians. Being here from Southeast, I stumbled across my trade. A brother woke me up one morning and said, they hiring up there at St. Elizabeth, they got to hire some DC residents. And, you know, that was when they was building Homeland Security. Long story short, that was about 7 years ago. I'm away from the music. I'm a local 602 steam fitter. You see what I'm saying? So that money that I make is what paid for my record, my new EP. It paid way for me to go to Jamaica when I went there earlier to record the music that I recorded there. The little drummer boy you hear, do good. And when my wife said to me, baby, it's my 50th and you always wanted to go to Africa, we're going to Africa for my birthday. It paid for that too. So I didn't wait on the repatriation. I'm not asking them. I'm going to work. I'm going to take all the overtime that they give me. I'm going to save it and put it away, because now I got people planning. God, I'm speaking it into existence, but it's been taught. It's not concrete yet, but they're talking of a 2020 All to the East Reggo tour starting in Ghana. So if I got to fund it myself, you know what I mean? I'm going to be using my day job money as well as the merchandise that I bought back with the vending that I do, because I have to play shows where people don't like to pay us. So give me a vending booth. and I have enough things to say. You see, so what I'm saying is economic recirculation, like you saw me. That's what you say you first saw me, at the Pan African Festival. Me and my empress have our booth there, you see, and even that I can't talk economics within that Pan African event. You were there that day. I provided myself to be there. I didn't talk of the money, the message, the works that was put forth for you and I to connect, for me to be here today. You know what I'm saying? So when we're talking about what's continuing in 2020, that was his summer. And because of whatever tried to stand in the way, you got that much of the show, but you got me here on your platform. You see? So the continuation. So one of the things that I left in Ghana with that disturbed me, and being able to keep safe and remain a musician with the works. When I went to work every day, man, I tell you as a union guy, I was scared as hell of the ladder. I hate heights, bro. But they trained us, right? And I knew that the paycheck was at the top of the ladder, so I had to go. So when I go to Africa, I'm even more disturbed, even Jamaica, because I see a lot of my brothers down there barefoot. Here, you cannot go on a job site without protective gloves, glasses, hard hat, or boots. The brothers down there barefoot, picking up pure stone after a man use a jackhammer. I got pictures in my phone. They doing the work, no protection nowhere. So it is my goal, personally. And I'm not talking about, here's how you put a shameless plug in. I'm not talking about my song, All to the East, which has become, they called every country in Africa saying, look to the East, okay? I'm not talking about that song that is now the theme song for the Repatriation Commission as appointed by the Commissioner of Repatriation for Ghanaian Rastafari Council. I'm not talking about that. Away from that, where I'm trying to get my tour for, I want to start collecting old used boots and PPE equipment and ship it down there so that I can begin to outfit workers down there with vests, glasses, gloves, safety. So a man can, if he get work in Africa, because I already know these companies not paying them what they worth. You know what I mean? These foreigners who coming in and got them working like that, they're not paying them what they worth. At least provide for them. At least. And these are things that me and my brother in CeeLo talked about we were going to implement while we there in Ghana. Union Temple Church has property in Asantagua that has to continue for repacks like myself who was able to go there. You know, if it can't be your father's place, it has to be somewhere that received my sister and her kingman when they ready for go down. So what I'm talking about is 2020 is connection with you again, my brother. So if it's a shekel or a shilling to make that happen, if it's a dance or a drum or a platform and a mic and a camera that's going to get us there, this is what I see for 2020.
Oh, yes, sir.
You understand?
Please.
All right, so it made me think of something on something that I've been working on. You know, I mentioned that I've been in New York, living in New York since 2005. So fortunately, I've been able to tour quite a bit, and I got connected with Jazz at Lincoln Center, which is overseen by Wynton Marsalis. So it's a very how do I put it? It's a money-driven sort of thing, right? You know, it's sponsored and it does a lot of good in schools for young people in New York, and it's very well known. You know, it's funded. It's very well known. So fortunately, since I've been associated with them for some time, they partnered with Washington D.C. So they last year I came and I taught in 5 schools here in Southeast, which they selected me, you know, which was interesting because I worked in some of the schools bringing jazz, kind of like letting kids know the history of the music, you know, because kids they don't know that this is our music. And they don't know that. When they think of jazz music, they think, oh, this isn't of our color. Well, you know, and so what I do is I connect them with that. I connect them with working with each other, with listening to each other. And fortunately enough, I was able to work in 5 schools last year here in DC, which was Moulton Elementary School, Sousa, what was the other one? Oh man, I'm trying. But it was 5 schools. So fortunately, at the beginning of 2020, they're gonna have me back to do five more schools in Southeast. So that's coming together. So we're working with these kids, and what I do, and I'm proud of this. Okay, I hire musicians that look like me, and I bring them into these schools so they can see people. And I hire people from Washington D.C. You know, I can bring people from New York down, but I hire a D.C. band. You know, and we work with these children so they can see that being a product, being from right here in Washington D.C., they can go anywhere. They can go to New York. They can go to Africa. They can go to Europe or whatever they want to do. So that's one side that I'm starting for 2020 as far as bringing the music to Washington D.C. and working with these kids. And my mission, you know, being a new father and reaching 37 years old, you know, and turning 40 in this next decade, my next mission is to work with this younger generation to give them what I had.
So talk about the concerts that you do for your mother's camp.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's important too. Okay. So my mother, she has a camp here in Washington for young girls.
And what is your mother's name?
My mother is Kathy English Holt. Mama Kathy. Yeah, Mama Kathy. So you know my mother. Yeah. So so she's had this camp for the last 8 years, right? And so I've done about 6 fundraisers. Every year I bring a band down and we play and we support and we kind of share our gift, you know, with the community. And this whole thing is about the community because the community supports
An
this.
average of $2,000 every time.
Yeah, we pull in, and so we're all about helping each other, uplifting each other in the community. You know, collective economics. And the other thing I would like to do for this next decade, I traveled to Europe so much. Okay, Europe and Asia. For some reason, they're able to Well, I've done it with the State Department, but I perform regularly with many different musicians from New York. But there's a brother named Kenny Garrett who was with Miles Davis back in the 80s. So I perform with him. I perform with my own group. But my point is that Europe and Asia, they have access to having whatever they want as far as music comes in, and they're blown away by having us come over, and of course they look at you, not everybody, but they look at you at first like, why are you here? You know, you don't necessarily feel welcomed, but then once you perform, then it's like, oh my gosh, we love y'all. Thank you for being here. So what I would like to do is, you know, I want to continue to expose our people here in the U.S. to our music. You know, I grew up in playing West African music, going to the Go-Go's every Friday night, DC Youth Orchestra, Duke Ellington School of Arts. So I was exposed to a lot. But I want to expose our people here to what it is that I do, you know, as well as the next generation. And I also want to help bring this music to places, primarily Africa. Because, you know, there's so many situations. There's a jazz festival every day somewhere in the world, throughout Europe, throughout Asia, throughout Australia. But then there's always a problem when we're about to go to Africa. So we're about to go to, we could do Cape Town Jazz Festival, we could do Joburg Jazz Festival, but when we're trying to get to the people, there's always a problem with finances that stop us from being able to go. So what I would like to do is also be a part of bringing this music to Africa. Be able to set up tours to go through Africa, you know, like you're doing. You know, I would like to do that, and so that's some things I want to do. I want to bring this music back to here, to Washington, and then spread it globally to Africa.
So I want to talk about the economic piece of making that dream come true. Talk about how we can continue to fulfill our ancestral heritage and our Uruguay. And that's through the Susu. When we begin to take control over our own finances and we are principally in control of our own money, and our money is not leaving our community after having, only turned around a few times and then it's gone, then we're going to be economically empowered to do the things that we want to do across the diaspora. So everybody familiar with the Susu? How many people are in a Susu?
If you wouldn't mind explaining it for me.
I will. So just you're the only one, Sam, in the Susu in here. Has anyone ever participated in a Susu?
Many times.
Okay, so you know the power of the Susu, right? Am I telling the truth?
Yeah.
So basically, the Susu is, it was started by West Africans and carried out throughout the Caribbean, and it's a compulsory form of saving. You probably participated like in a hospital or some kind of form of it. But basically, you have a banker, you have a hand, you have a draw. The banker sets the hand. So in this pillars of the Susu is basically trust and accountability and responsibility. But it's basically a pool where a group of people agree to put their money in a pot, and then the members have immediate capital. So you say, well, why would I join the Susu and put my money in the pot with everyone else? Why would I not just put it in a bank and get interest? Because the Susu doesn't pay interest. The reason is because when you put your money in a Susu, that's collective economics. That's what we're talking about. We're enabling each other. First of all, you get immediate capital. Because unlike the bank, once you put your money in the Susu, if you need to take it out, you can take it out immediately before you save it. So that's the beauty of the Susu right there in a long shot, is that it's a micro loan. You like if the Susu is for 10 weeks and the banker sets the hand for $100 a week for $1,000 draw, that means week 2 you could get $1,000. How much have you saved? 200. So you see how that's the power of Susu. So real quick, take it to the next level and do what the Asians do, because this is how they're doing it. You get people who in the community have conscience with capital. Okay, 5 people. Every Saturday I bring $1,000 to the table. No, let's kick it up a notch. I run a business. Every Saturday I'm Asian. I bring $5,000 to the table. There are 10 of us in the Susu. How much am I walking away with to go open up my beauty supply store down the street on a Saturday? It's 10 of us. And we both reach $50,000 every Saturday. Okay? Because unlike the capitalistic system, when I was the banker of our Susu, which we ran for 3 years, and we bought $75,000 in a year. We ran it for 3 years. We're on a break now. We can ready to start up again in the fall, and I'm just phenomenal what we can ready to do, take it to the next level. But if just imagine that capital and what you could do with it if you come together and based on trust, accountability, and responsibility, as African people, we learn to flow with each other like that. The sky is the limit to what we can do.
Let's give our panelists a hand, y'all. Let's give them a hand.
I appreciate these young folks on the panel. 52. How old did you say?
I'm 50. How old is my baby? I forget.
I'm gonna be 26.
Okay, no. That's okay. You 50s though. Well, I'm representing.
I'm the elder.
No,
How old you, Bob?
excuse me. I'm 68.
Oh, I'm not the
Okay,
elder.
so let me say this though to the
You
court.
look so young.
But let me say this because what you just shared was very important because you do collective work and responsibility to get cooperative economics.
Yes.
But let me make it clear, and I'm all about Susus. I know about them, but there are many cooperative economic plans taking place. Many. And I will name 2. One in Washington, D.C., Appeal.
Yes.
And one in Atlanta that's global. All of them are global, and it's called Us Lifting Us.
Okay.
Because Us Lifting Us has signed a partnership agreement with the Pan African Federalist Movement. So a lot of people that are helping build that, like Marimba Armah, myself, and a lot of us, I think Baba Mosi, quite a few of us that are members of Us Lifting Us, which is a global cooperative. And we're about not just raising money for ourselves.
Right.
We're building for generations down the road.
Yes.
So because sometimes when we talk, and I'm not saying anything against what you said, But sometimes when we talk about cooperative economics, we're thinking about us breaking through ourselves because we've been on the bottom of the rung. But the future has to be cooperative economics for the global African community, which means internal reparations. You see, we spend too much time fighting over whether or not we should get external reparations. Yes, we should. But internal repair is within our reach. Okay? And I'm not talking about the Oprah Winfreys, the Michael Jordans, and all of them who made money off of us and owe us back. Because they do. They made everything they got off of our people and they owe us back, plus their culture is the DNA. But I'm talking about bringing the Pan African Federalist Movement together. We're looking at internal reparations. And I'm not going to go too deep into that, but what you laid out, sister, you gave me, and it's good because everything the Asians and everybody else got came from us. I want to take it back to the whole what I was saying earlier, but many of y'all missed it. There is nobody on the planet that has anything that did not come from the purity of African people. Our lost soul children have now unfortunately become some of our own melanated children. Y'all hear me? Y'all, this is very important because as Tony Browder, Renoko Rashidi, Asa Hilliard, and some of those ancestors that, that did the research and Sheikh Anta Diop have led us to believe, see, we're not poor. We are the wealthiest human beings on the planet. We just have not created the systems where we handle the wealth. We give our wealth back to the oppressor. Yes. So, and because she brought up the Susu, I really wanted to say that because it's bigger than what most of us can imagine in terms of Africa, and many of y'all who missed the earlier part understand the Pan African Federalist Movement is building to change that paradigm. We're not dealing with Ghana, Nigeria, Rwanda. We're dealing with African continent and African people because the Berlin Conference carved up that. So when we regain that, you won't have to go to China to build a museum in Senegal. Y'all hear me? So we gotta really, and I want to close on an artistic point and pass it back to Sam. Art and culture is the most wealthiest thing on the planet. It's just the record industry has been pimping out artists, and now artists are waking up. And that's why it's tough times, Ras, because sometimes people think that they got to go the way that's been laid out to them. But you have to actually go the way that our ancestors used because we have yet to use our DNA or blacktricity to rebuild the technukes, the pyramids. All right? So don't think that some Martians that came down here and built the pyramids were not your brothers and sisters, if that's a fact. Y'all heard what I'm saying? It's our creative genius that has to save the planet. It's our creative genius that will save humanity. And believe me, we will win. See, a lot of times we wallow in defeat because we don't taste victory. You follow me? We being warred on and we're not even offensive. We caught in defensive mode. You can't win just trying to defend yourself. You got to be offensive. And I'm not talking about throwing stones back at them. You step out of the way of the stones that they throw, let them break their own glass windows. We build our own. And so that process is taking place, my sister, and I'm happy to tell you that what you said too, brother, is critical. You said it was lightweight. That's heavyweight. When you provide safety for other brothers and sisters doing the work. I'm happy to tell you my spiritual son, Brother Harua Forai Atta, is building systems with his own construction company in Ghana today. Sister Rosie, and you know, I just saw her last night. So there are brothers and sisters building on the continent. But they need the support of the Africans in the diaspora outside of Africa so that they can do better. And I want to say that, y'all. It's good stuff happening, but not enough of the mass support is behind the good stuff because we still think that you can get your house with air conditioning and be all right. That's not reality. If we can't get Africa back, Africans won't be all right. But 2020 and beyond, like I said earlier, during the candlelight service, you're going to see a lot of changes. And I really want to thank y'all specifically on behalf, not just the local Pan African Federalist Movement, but the global Pan African Federalist Movement that's going to hear this. because as we said, we are headquartered in Mali. And Africans y'all ages need to hear what we're doing, because too often they think we have arrived. Brothers and sisters on the continent think you and I are all right. And like when I was there, they was like, well, we want to go back there where you are. No. Or you want to go to Europe? No. We have to go back there and provide the basis. The basis for them. And so you'll be surprised at what can happen with what you said in terms of shoes. And I know you and I talk about it all the time. Your father paved the way for repatriation. He had a Senegalese passport, Senegalese family, but he left a radical change. And any African like Haru, who was from Ghana, lived in St. Thomas, is now living in Rwanda. And a brother pulled me up the other day and said, do you know how bad the president of Rwanda is? I said, I'm not dealing with the presidents. I'm talking about the people in the land. You see, we are caught in a Eurocentric mindset. You think about Rwanda, you think about the Tutsis and the Husis. That's all you think about. Oh, they were killing each other. Well, who caused that war?
Right.
Y'all hear me?
Yes.
Divide and conquer caused that. So let's stop always worrying about, like Tony Browder said, he's safer in Kemet than he is in Southeast DC. Or Chicago, Illinois. Because Africa is huge. And we sometimes think all about the bad stuff. Y'all, wake up. Africa's cities are just as big and bad as cities in the United States, but one thing they got that the United States don't got. And Marcus Garvey said this when he met with the Ku Klux Klan. And I'll pass the mic on to Sam so we can deal with my good brother Bomani. He said, if y'all don't watch out, there's more trees in Africa than there are in the United States. Y'all got that?
Oh, yeah.
Y'all know how heavy that went to the white capitalists? Just by him saying that? He said there are more trees in Africa than they are in the United States. So in other words, you better stop hanging Africans in the United States, because maybe one day that karma might come back and all y'all rich folks over in Africa might start getting strung up. And I'm not advocating that. I'm saying, what if? You see, because most of the billionaires in the world have become billionaires because of the African continent, not because of you and me. And I'm talking about billionaires still in Africa. So wake up, y'all, because the change is there. The change is happening. It's just moving at a snail's pace, as Us Lifting Us says. Us Lifting Us, we moving at a snail's pace. And it's time for the pace to step up. So we need Reggo music. We need real jazz. And as Max Roach said, it's improvisation music. Really, they gave that name to it. And my sister, you know, you brought a perfect example. The movie Black Panther did more to wake African people up to their Africanity, at least in clothing, than anything our 60s revolution could do. So what we need to do, as Brother Kamon Freeman said, start making our own films, start doing our own artistic work. Ashe.
I'm going to let Ras Lidj go in just a second. And, you know, before I go on, I just want to thank the panelists again. We got to acknowledge them with some hand claps, y'all. Please, man. A little louder than that, if you don't mind. Just a little louder, y'all. So at some point in the program, Brother Bomani's going to introduce us to his craft, and he's going to explain Ujima and his life, and just really, you know, give a bomb presentation. What I want to encourage you guys to do right now is, if you haven't done so already, go to that back table there and fill out that petition, y'all. We're talking about a united African state, y'all. And so much has been on my mind during this part of the presentation, just from the economics part to the rallying together. A lot of good topics that people have dropped. And I think that the reason why, you know, our panelists here have been able to do so much with their craft at the very foundation is because through their craft they have espoused very positive values that we as Africans need to take on collectively. So they're practicing the Nguza Saba as they're doing their music and as they're doing their crafts, and they're also speaking about it as they're doing those principles. So they're not only talking about it, but they're living it. And that just speaks to how each one of us in our communities have various purposes and we have various crafts, but we're all doing it in the interest of one goal, and oftentimes we might not agree on what that goal is, but I think that Kwanzaa time is the perfect opportunity for us to realize that we can agree on 7 things at least, 7 core principles about who we are as African people and how we should operate. So that is one thing that I just wanted to bring up, and I think now more than ever, at this pivotal point in our history, we need to hold steadfast to that. We need to really take into account, as far as leadership, with us being the people among the masses, we need to take into account who among us are holding on to those principles and who among us aren't holding on to those principles. And it's a matter of us really holding them accountable, especially if they call themselves leaders or they call themselves members of the communities. It's up to us to do that. And I think, especially now, because you have, outside of these walls, you have people who, when they talk about money and they talk about people's contributions, people's what they've done, or like what they have, the conversation oftentimes stops at that. And nothing more about, who the person is, what the person has done outside of their career, And that celebrity worship is what's gotten us into a position that we are now, because we espouse money more so than we do principles. And just like the panelists here, these panelists here, they said nothing about turning down dollars. They said nothing about that. But the reason why we have so many billionaires is because we have the masses of us who worship them instead of questioning how it is they got to accumulate so much of that wealth. And they did that by not practicing communalism. They did that by not practicing the Nguza Saba. We need to keep on practicing the Nguza Saba and doing that. So that's just what's been on my mind. But we can do that today by you guys looking at that petition and signing it. Now understand that petition is not all that there is to the movement. And understand that that petition is just your validation of what needs to be done. Understand that once again, we're in the final frontier of this movement. We need to unify, not just nominally, we need to unify politically, socially, and economically. And Pan African Federalism is that way of doing it. And we're doing it here locally. We're doing it here in the different regions of the world. Understand, I'm in WhatsApp groups with youth in the Pan African Federalist Movement in different countries and different regions. Right. They're creating similar movements right now. So it's not just us here. Don't listen to people when they try to tell you that continental Africans and Africans in other parts of the world aren't Pan-Africanists, that Pan-Africanism is just a dream that people in the West have. No, this is something that's global, and we're building up movements concurrently. So it's incumbent upon us to keep on doing this, to keep on talking about Pan-African federalism and keep on consolidating our resources so that we're working concurrently and we're working toward that common goal. Can I get an ashe? Ashe. Can I get one more ashe, y'all? Ashe. All right. I'm going to let Ras Lidj give us the final word for this portion of the program, and then we're...
So also let them announce what may be coming up, and then...
You're right. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate you. I'm going to let Ras Lidj give the last word. From there, he can talk about what's coming up, as well as the other panelists, and then I'll let Bomani take over, y'all. Are you guys ready for this part of the program, y'all? Y'all don't sound ready. I'm trying to figure out, are you guys ready for this part of the program? Listen, man, I've been geeking real hard, for this season, y'all, because, man, like, where the millennials at, man? Where the millennials at? Millennials, if you was born in like mid to late 80s up until like 96 or something like that, where you at? Okay, that count. Okay, so like let's say 80s and 90s. Like man, listen man, this is my 30th. I just celebrated my 30th year not too long ago, y'all. So you know when we're talking about the changing seasons and decades and all that, any question that I ask them, I'm asking for myself too. So like I'm not totally selfless because I gotta hear it too. Like dang, like 37, early 50s, like you know 30s, 60s. Like how do y'all keep going? You know what I'm saying? Because there's like there's a blueprint, but after 30 it feels like you're in the wilderness. You know what I'm saying? So you know, so. So it's just very good having these enriching conversations. So I'm gonna let Ras Lidj take it away, y'all. Your last word, sir.
First, I want to say thank y'all so much because when we sat down here, when we started, there was, I think, my son there and 2 or 3 people. So give yourselves a round of applause and thank you for coming out and supporting me. I noticed a lot of y'all looking tense though when we got to talking about money. Nah, we not passing the collection plate. We ain't ask you for none. Relax. All the brother needs you to do is sign a petition because this is Pan Africanism and we're mobilizing. The sister told you about the susu. The brother suggested other ways to support Africa as well as support yourselves. I'm going to send up heights to the Most High Jah now to just say that may each and every one of us in here, not only that we be blessed with the finances that we need to move forward for repatriation to Africa, but that we have in giving a sense of discernment when to give, how to give, and who to give to, so you feel protected. Because one of the things that I learned in Ghana, we talk a lot about the excitement of Africa and going there. King Garvey, X, Kwame Nkrumah, we talk about them all. But one thing that I found that they all have in common, you know, and this is why I sent up that heights. Even when we, you know, those who still follow scripture or Bible, you know, you're inclined to watch after Christ. But there's one person in there that you don't watch after you heard of. And the reason I mention this person in name with all these other great ancestors in that name, there's one thing that I found in Africa, especially after coming through the Kwame Nkrumah Museum, that keeps us from unifying before we can talk about money. That's why I ask that you have discernment and knowing who and what to give to. One thing that I found that keeps us from unifying, there's always, and I don't know why, it seems like within our people, there's always this Judas Iscariot vibe and a lack of trust. You see? I see him doing the platform, so instead of me being here the honest, I think his platform, no, that's not what I'm called to do. But I want to backbite him and come try to put on this now like you. Stop it. You see what I'm saying? So within that, we have to, and I bring this up not as to throw nothing intense, but we gotta Lego that in order, like the sister say, trust, be it the susu, because she gonna be holding. If 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if all 6 of us right here can give $500 a week, we gotta trust that she gonna hold it. Week 1 is yours, you get it. Week 2 is mine. Week 3, 4, that's what the susu. You see, somebody sitting out there right now and saying, no, I don't know, I'm trusting with my fine. You can't have that kind of faith. You won't. You won't reach. See, some people go to church, and a musician told me this one time. He said, I ain't going to church. I'm going to the bank. I said, what you mean, bro? He said, the bank is the temple. Everybody go to church and give that money to the church. Where the bank, where the church put their money at? When they want the loan. See, when the church get the loan to build a new church, they go to the bank. You know what I mean? When they talking about building this new Africa and unifying in our parts, be it boots, be it $5, I got a video on there, All to the East. I'm telling you, this kid came to me to do the video with old laptop, outdated Adobe Premiere software, a broken drone in his hand, and he said, I don't know if my camera gonna work good because it doesn't do 4K. I'm like, dude, I don't care if you make me a video that come out of a big back TV. You know what I'm saying? And if you look at it, it's quality.
It's true.
So how much can we do with just a little? And again, I'm not asking y'all to get nothing today. Just be conscious and mindful of this. Who you can help, who you can support into the young people like we talking about. And how is it reciprocated back? Because that's that good karma put out. What you put out, it come back. And I just wanted to say that in closing. Thank you, my brother. Please continue to work. And just to let you know, I just bought me a Steinberg. I've always loved bass guitar. Could never really play, so I know major and minor now. So I'm coming. We get together. My sister, thank you so much. Love the quilt, love the words, and educating the youth, giving back. You know, I'm so pleased to be a part of this. So pleased everybody came out. Thank y'all so much. And I say, keep it going. The spirit is alive.
How can they find you?
Oh, I'm on Twitter is Reggo Music, and my website is reggo.com. 3 G's, 2 G's for reggae, 1 G for go-go. REGGGO. Reggo.com. On Twitter and Instagram, I'm at Reggo Music, and I'm on Facebook. When you do the / facebook.com/ Ras RAS Lidj LIDJ, and then I think it's another one, twitter.com Reggo, Reggo Music or Reggo. So that's how you find me on social media, but Reggo.com is it, and you can see the new video there. You can, I'm always talking of the African experience. Ghana, Africa is beautiful. There's 54 countries there. Go, 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 go. Don't worry about being broke. You don't need a lot there. Get you a ticket. I spent money because I wanted to do more. I wanted to be, just go. Just go. That's all I can tell you. It's beautiful. It is for you. Everything is, there's so many things to see there. Everything selling on the street here. I know we paying for our houses here, but if you want to change something in front of your house here, you got to ask the neighborhood council. You got to get approval from the, there you buy your property for what some of you are receiving a retirement social security check for. You can have so much more than the house that you have in the suburbs now. Nobody can tell you you can't, your granddaughter, grandbaby can't have a lemonade fruit stand out front. You grow everything you want on the trees, on the land. You understand? Our house might look as big as this building. Look at across the street up to the big chin down there, all that being yours. I'm not lying to you. I've seen it myself. For the little that you're bringing in your retirement now.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? For real. Live up, wise up, live up, my people. I love you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Corcoran,
And thank y'all again. Man, I was just really humbled to be up here with y'all, and just so happy to be a part of this panel. Basically, my name again is Corcoran Holt, so you can find me all over social media, which is Corcoran, C-O-R, another C-O-R-A-N, named after the art gallery, and Holt, H-O-L-T is my last name. And I'm on Facebook as Corcoran Holt, also Corcoran Holt Music, Instagram Corcoran Holt, Twitter Corcoran Holt. I keep it pretty simple. Next weekend, I'm bringing my band to the City Winery, which is over on Oakey Street Northeast, and it's a great venue. And fortunately, I had decided to start my own record label. We talked briefly about that. The record labels were trying to pretty much take everything that I had worked hard for, and so I kind of funded my own project, and I was able to move it up to number 3 in the country for jazz radio, 2018. So that was good. So I'm gonna have my band at the City Winery next weekend, next Sunday, which is the 5th of January. So it's a New Year celebration. And the doors open at 6 o'clock, and you can go to citywinery.com and you can find it. But really, again, I'm just really glad to be here and be able to connect with everybody. And community is first for me. You know, can't do anything without community. We can't do anything without each other. So that's what it's all about. And I hope to see y'all next weekend and just in general. You know, let's stay together. All right.
That's what Ujima is all about. Real quick, I'm excited because 2019 was blacktastic. It was fantastic. When we set our mind to it, when we speak our affirmations. I mean, I started off saying, having no contracts, nothing, and I spoke what I was going to do in 2019, and I went to California twice. I mean, it was just phenomenal. So 2020, speak your affirmation and watch the Divine Spirit manifest all the desires of your heart when we operate in Ma'at. For me, my 2020 plans, I'm so excited. I'm going to continue research for my book, The Stories That Quilts Tell, which I've already started my research. And I have to give Brother Sam kudos because I was on his program in February and he actually penned my book, The Stories That Quilts Tell. And subsequent to that, I started conducting my research with people all around the country, and I have some phenomenal stories that the quilts are going to tell, and just including a quilt that I encountered that had picked cotton as a what we call a batting inside, and I was examining the quilt, and I was like, Baba, this is picked cotton, because he told me that the quilt was his grandmother's from the 1800s. So that's coming out in my book. That's The Stories That Quilts Tell. Isn't that a phenomenal story? Picked cotton. So, and then in February, I'm going back home. I'm doing a Sankofa. I told you I'm from the Midwest, Wisconsin, Des Moines, Iowa. Spirit is taking me back to Madison, Wisconsin. In February, I pull out, the coat and the boots for that. I'm doing a Black History Education Conference with, I don't know if you know, Dr. Gloria Ladson-Billings. She's the mother of the culturally responsive teaching movement. So that's in February. I'm excited about that. And then finally in March, I'm going to present my Scraps of African Heritage workshop to 300 Watoto at the Black Students California United 2020 Conference in San Francisco. Yeah. So I'm really excited. I'm going to be on sabbatical after that to continue doing the research for my book and to publish, last but not least, the Children of the Sun homeschool curriculum, which is over the top. If you have children that you're educating, you want to put this in your arsenal. It corrects the historical timeline that leaves us out of the narrative and brings all of our sacred science, our African math, our Black history, heritage, and culture. And Bomani was a collaborator with me. Who is our project? Yes, it's been beta tested for 3 years around the nation, and we're getting ready to do it. He did the music for it, and so we're excited about all that the Divine Spirit is doing in our lives. It's part of that Wahimi Misi, right? That African Renaissance.
And that's beautiful, y'all. Let's give our panelists another hand, y'all. All right, y'all. We got Brother Bomani. He's about to show us what he does, y'all. Let's give him a hand, y'all. Let's give him a hand.
How's everybody doing? Sorry I'm late. My sons and I both were performing at the 50th annual Kwanzaa party up at the Panorama Room. And so my sons are 13 at this point. I'm their chauffeur, driver, and their manager. But I performed as well, and it was a lot of fun. I'm blessed to be doing this in front of a group of adults. I normally do my presentations either for kids or for teachers who work with kids. I got a song that I've been working on. Can I try some new stuff out on y'all? So I want to give y'all an example. Let me make sure I'm still plugged into the Bluetooth here.
Looks like it.
Okay, cool. Let's see. Y'all know this beat? Some of y'all should know this beat. This One More Chance, Biggie Smalls. So I wanted to give a chance to describe what I do over the form of a rhyme. I'm gonna have some fun with this. There's some words in here you might know, might not know. Look them up if you don't. We're gonna have some fun with this. Here we go. Check it. First things first, Baba, Mulimu Wawatoto, for show, with my pro flow. Since the days of madness and hobo, Icebox and Taj Mahal for go-go's, waiting for the conga solo. Drums make heart race like the logo. goes on your polo. When chocolate city turns to hot cocoa, keep it bouncing like a pogo. Some things you gotta do when you're local, like eat fries with Mumbo or Jonah Tony Romo. I rep DC to PG, uptown to Upper Marlboro. No part of DC or Indy I won't go. No part of my beautiful blackness that I won't show. I'm CNN between Norray and Chris Cuomo. Capture 1,000 words of one photo. Kindergarten is time lapse, prison time happens slow-mo. I've taught both, so I got theories, here they go. These little bros with no dough ain't pressed to bring the bag in like Frodo, or walk with roads with their dogs like Toto. Yes, they listen to trap rap like it's a job promo, life on edge. The slightest thing can put them into go mode. They just want a home though. Women express love, no need to say no homo. Sorry, write the pro code. Rap kids in culture like Basotos from Lesotho. Here a reference that you don't know was Google on your phone for. But teaching kids is 94. As a high school sophomore, up in Largo back when a Mo was a Joe. Boys and Girls Club with Daryl and Carlos. Can't you see like that single from Togo? If you paint a picture for students that's hopeful, marinate students in love like it's adobo. You can show bros with bow nose and girls to be flojo. So I put their message to a dope flow. I'll say it again though you've heard it all before. In the wrong environment, the seed won't grow. Ask a fish to climb a tree, his talents won't show. Give a musician their instrument, boom, virtuoso. This ain't a theory that I'm speaking. I know so. I learned from an optimist with a capital O. To kids from Bell, Dunbar, Cullington, and Cardozo. An after-school program turned hip-hop dojo. New age Creole, our integration mogul. Proving it with metrics or even anecdotal. Now the hip-hop Dr. Seuss. All the places we will go. Frederick Hartford, Baltimore, and Armando Moco. St. Mary's, Charles, Winchester, where Comico. Coming to America like Eddie and Arsenio. To tell your kid their mind's dripping so that your soul glow. Folks chase no doors before logos. Use their waking moments to put our kids in chokeholds. My mind's my nine, my fifth are acting vocals, kicking the dough, waving the fofo. All you heard is Baba Mwalimu Wawa Toto. Look it up if you don't know. First things first, I'm Baba Mwalimu Wawa Toto. Yeah, Baba got bars. I'm Baba Mwalimu Wawa Toto. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Big up.
Thank you. So, to break down basically what I do, my name is Baba Bomani. I have a bunch of aliases. Baba Bomani, I am the Watermelon Man. I am the Hip Hop LeVar Burton. I am Mr. Read a Book. I'm the Black Colin Powell. I have a whole bunch of other aliases. We'll get into those. All of them have like their own songs and their own personalities. I am blessed. All I do for a living is I teach young people English language, arts, and history through hip hop. I have a program called Baba Got Bars. I've been teaching hip hop. I'm sorry, I just got finished performance. I'm all excited. I'm trying to but I am blessed. I tell people all the time, if you see me and I'm not smiling, remind me I make rap songs with kids for a living. All right, my work days are not that bad. But I'm really blessed. I've been an artist my entire life. I am a DCPG product. My first thing that really got me big was basically about, 15 years ago now? No. My sons are 13, so maybe 12 years ago now. There's a song that came out called Read a Book. It was a big internet viral smash. It made a lot of noise. Everybody thought it was Little John. But basically what it was is, I've been a musician my entire life. I grew up on gospel and go-go. When those are your two styles of music, you understand that the audience has to be a part of your music, and that you're responsible for moving the crowd and giving them the energy that they move with. When I would go to gospel, when I would go to church, I'd be playing piano, playing the drums. It'd be a positive spirit. I would go see Junkyard and Backyard. It wouldn't be the exact same kind of spirit, but it would be moving. The spirit would be moving in the room based on the drums and the chants that you say over the drums. So my entire life has been about conducting that energy and using it for my community. When Read a Book hit, I got a whole bunch of opportunities, and I talked to a couple. I even had a song before that got on BET called Cool With You with my man Melody from Melody and the Rados. And basically the song was a song about loving your neighbor no matter your differences. My man Melody released it independently, paid for a promoter, and got it on BET. I'm up rapping about loving your neighbor. You know what I'm saying? In between like Tupac and Biggie videos, which was a big deal. And a lot of people think we couldn't or shouldn't have done that, but that was like my first introduction to it. And so then we came back with Read a Book. And then after that, I was gonna say I got a whole bunch of opportunities to meet with record labels. And I think my manager at the time was mad at me because it never occurred to me as a conscious artist that I was going to blow up, that I was going to have a hit as big as Read a Book, right? I mean, Read a Book itself is about literally reading books. So I always thought so my model was Chuck Brown. So I would go into these record labels and they'd be like, yeah, man, I like what you do, blah, 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 blah. And I would say Chuck Brown, and to them, that wasn't a big deal. Because Chuck Brown, had a couple of hits in the 70s and the 80s, but it hasn't really blown up for them, right? But for me, my example was Chuck Brown did what he wanted for a living till he died. His community had his back, and he was able to do what he wanted till he died, making his music, representing his people and his culture. I would love to make $1 million. Actually, no, I don't want to make $1 billion. That's actually excessive. I would love to make a lot of money, but I would rather be collected to my community and my culture. And I think that's where my music has come from. And so, I also returned to Ghana this year. This was actually my 4th trip to the continent. I've been to Uganda, I've been to Kenya, I've been to Nigeria, but this year I took my sons to Ghana as part of the Return to Africa, and I'm really excited about that. And I tell people all the time that my freedom, my Africanness, a lot of it comes from being from Washington, D.C. and PG County. Things you don't really notice. Say, for instance, so go-go music itself is all these elements of black music. It's funk, it's jazz, it's R&B, right? But then what you do is, it's evidently for DC people, it's not black enough, right? So with both hands, you put congas over it like it's hot sauce. You know what I'm saying? Pun intended. You know what I'm saying? You smacking congas all over it, making it black, blacker than blackety black. You know what I'm saying? And I've carried that attitude with me my entire career, my entire life, and I understand that that's the position and the stuff that I need to put into the young people's minds. So when I go into the school system, this is what I get a chance to do. And let me break that down a little bit. The way I got into the school system, when my sons were in the 1st grade, they were in school in Laurel. First of all, I didn't know, my son is named Olu. I didn't know Nigerians had taken over Laurel the way they had. I was afraid that my son was going to be the kid with the funny African name. He goes into the 1st grade and he's one of 8 Olus in his class. Right. So we're in a very African diaspora location right now anyway, right? And so it's a good school. I graduated from PG County schools. I believe it was this PG or Montgomery County they were. I'm completely pro public education. I'm a product of PG County schools. I stand on top of that, right? But when their mom and I had gotten married and we were talking about our family, we had always talked about homeschooling. Not because we didn't think our children could get an education through public education, but we thought that we couldn't, that part of the reason that you teach your children is teach them why they are learning. And public education doesn't teach you why you're learning. They teach you, go get a job. You know what I'm saying? And homeschool education, Afrocentric education is you need to learn math because your job is to do this for your community. You need to learn English because your job is to do this for your community. You need to know history because your job is to do this for your community. So I had given up on that dream of homeschooling my children because their mom and I, who we get along really, really great now, but we at the time we had broken up, and I was like, whatever, I'm not going to be able to homeschool my kids. I went through public school. I'll be fine. I'm a full-time musician, so I was able to drop in on my children's class every once in a while. I wasn't paying attention. The fall of their 1st grade year, I come in on a day. It's a random day to me. I ain't paying attention, but it's Columbus Day. All right. And my sons have a permanent substitute. Their teacher was on maternity leave. And they had a substitute who had just recently retired, and she had come back maybe the month before and was teaching all their classes. And she reflexively, because, there's some consciousness even amongst the evil of the school system where they don't teach like in 1492 Columbus sailed the ocean blue. They don't teach that poem anymore because it's BS. It's not true. The whole world knew the world was round. Columbus wasn't brave. He was lost. He was a genocidal maniac. I think we all in this room understand that, right? But so the teacher, she's a newly unretired teacher, and she comes in, it's Columbus Day, and she just pulls out her old Christopher Columbus lesson plan. And all of it's cool, it's factual stuff, and then she goes into the 1492 poem. Now, I, as an educator myself and as a parent, know that if I'm sitting in the back of my son's class, I'm not supposed to interrupt. I'm supposed to just participate and see blah, blah, blah. But I'm in the back, like my blood is boiling when the 1492 poem starts. I felt like Malcolm X was like this. Like, I told you, you can't let your enemies teach your children. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I am in the back. So I go up to the teacher and I'm like, yo, you're not supposed, I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to use that 1492 poem anymore. She's like, yeah, you're right, but the kids like it. It rhymes. It's catchy. It gets stuck in their head. And I'm like, that's the point, right? And so, my sons, after the class, I come up to them and I'm like, to preface it, I've already talked to my sons about foul language and told them that expletive language is supposed to be used in expletive situations. And so I was like, yo, what's going on? This Columbus lesson is bullshit. They were first graders. I was like, this is bullshit. I want to make sure they understood the severity of the situation. And they were like, oh, wow, okay. I was like, Columbus wasn't a hero. He didn't discover anything. I'm like mad, you know what I'm saying? So that evening, I called their mom, and before I get a chance to start, she goes, do you know what kind of crap our sons had in their hand on the way out? They had that 1492 poem in their hand. And I snatched it out their hand. It's like, nah, this is some bullshit. I was like, yeah, I told them the same thing. They said, yeah, they said you said the same thing. I was like, so we got to figure out a way to homeschool. All right, so that was the beginning of that semester. They went through the whole year. They did well. I've got smart boys. They got good genes. You know what I'm saying? And so they went through that whole school year. So then their mom and I said, we aren't together. Neither of us are making a lot of money. But we're like, that was a conviction moment. As a poet, I just believe things happen around me in a poetic way to like make me, the way you talk about spirit leading you, right? So I was supposed to take my children out of school. I wouldn't suggest anyone take their children out of school the way Shay and I took Olu and Dela out of school unless they lived in DC or PG County or Montgomery County. There was a huge net, there was a huge community here, ready and willing and able and already had the experience to catch us when we were like, hey, after school systems, like, hey, we got programs for you. You know what I'm saying? But we had kind of made that jump without really researching it, but because we felt so convicted. But fortunately, through organizations like the Sankofa Homeschool Collective, Chance, Wilson Baker, where my sons go now, we got an opportunity to really have our education that we were doing at home supplemented. And then we'll also be being here in Washington, D.C., you can teach your students. I mean, if you have a day to go down to the museums, a really good educator, a really good way to teach your children is just to walk them through the museums and let them ask questions and answer them. And you just do your research from there. You know what I'm saying? We're in a really good place. So on top of that happening, the Sankofa Homeschool Collective, they would meet on Fridays. So I came up with a class that happened on Mondays called the Frederick Douglass Writing Club. We would meet at my recording studio on Kennedy Street in Northwest. Basically what it is I've been doing some research and doing my ELA work with my schools. I'm trying to find, my favorite way to teach history is to find historical figures and teach about them for like the practical examples in your life. Not like you need to know that this happened on this date and this happened on that date. One of my favorite history books is The 48 Laws of Power. I tell people you can judge people on how they use the 48 Laws of Power. Some people it's a book of warnings and some people it's a book of instructions. For me it's a book of warnings, but one of the best ways it does is it says, this is a concept, we're going to show you how Haile Selassie used this concept, we're going to show you how blah 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 used this concept. It's practical application of these concepts. And I was like, so how can I teach history in a practical application kind of way? And I also teach English language arts. We live in DC. Frederick Douglass lives that way. We can go visit his house. There are monuments to him all over the place. Frederick Douglass wrote in 3 different ways: autobiographies, journalism, and public speaking. All right, 3 things that our young people need to understand. I need to be able to do themselves, tell their own stories, tell about the news or digest the news themselves, and tell people about what our mission and what our movement needs to be. All right, and then we added the 4th element, which was writing rhymes, because that's what I do. And for a year, the parents who homeschooled entrusted me with their 9, 10, 11-year-olds. And what we did was every day for 6 hours, we would meet at my studio. We would spend about 2 hours reading Frederick Douglass's narrative, which is too complicated for a 10th or 11-year-old, and I was doing that on purpose. We took our time, we put out a dictionary, because Frederick Douglass wrote this complicated manuscript with no formal education. I'm like, if he could write this with no help, we're going to sit here with some dictionaries and get through it. The young people over the course of 10 weeks when we did it, they labored through it. Between the hard words, it's hard reading this story. It's hard reading Frederick Douglass having his mother taken away, seeing his mom beaten, just all the crap he went through. When he finally got his freedom, sitting around, laying down on the studio floor, when we got to the part where he was free, literally these 11-year-olds jumped up and started dancing around. Like, I'm glad at one point I was a little depressed after 7 weeks putting them through it, but then I was like, no, we needed to go through the arduous task of understanding slavery and coming out on the other end. And so doing those 8 weeks, was it 8 weeks or 10 weeks? I can't remember right now. But doing those weeks and working on having those young people write rhymes, I developed a curriculum that I was able to sell to the public school system. I work with an organization called Young Audiences of Maryland, and they book me in literally every county in the state. And I have like curriculums and graphic organizers that, because of the homeschool opportunity, because these parents trusted me with their children, and I took that trust and I was like, let me not just, we rap and so we're having fun. Like, nah, let me figure out some real curriculum, ELA, Common Core line, things that go with it. So I have like whole graphic organizers, I have songs, I have all this stuff that really works in your classroom curriculum that you don't have to get off task as a teacher to add in your kids writing rhymes. Let me break down a real simple part for it. Basically what it is a well-written a well-written essay resembles a well-written song. Both essays and songs have main ideas. Both essays and songs have supporting details. In an essay, the main idea is the introductory paragraph. In a song, the main idea is the chorus. In an essay, the supporting details are in the subsequent paragraphs. In a song, the supporting details are in the verses. I get a chance to go around the country and teach kids how to write songs instead of book reports. All right? It gets you the exact same information, but even better, it's catchy. And then on top of that, the process of making the song makes you really break down the topic. All right? So if you're talking about the American Revolution, and every time a teacher brings me in to talk about the American Revolution, I always like, this is going to be on camera, but whatever. I always throw in little elbows at the founders. Like, we'll be talking like, yeah, George Washington, blah, 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 blah. I was like, yeah, did you know George Washington had a set of teeth made out of all of his slaves? I was like, did you know George Washington had a losing record as a general? He really wasn't that good at it. I like slide that in there like out of nowhere. But anyway, they'll be talking about the American Revolution, and we'll write a song about the American Revolution. The song usually comes out really, really well. But just the process of finding metaphor, simile, and rhyme words to help you articulate an idea you've been studying in class helps you ingrain the concept even more into your mind. And so I was doing that for a couple years, and then I made another breakthrough. I think it's the quote you're talking about. And that is, rapping is the art and engineering of language divided by math. All right? Rapping is the art and engineering of language divided by math. Basically, I had another revelation a couple days ago, and a song I'm working on, right? I realized this really studying funk music, and really studying James Brown, right? Funk music is umoja in action, according to how James Brown described it. Bootsy Collins says that James Brown told him, it doesn't matter what you do. All that fancy stuff you do is fine. It's beautiful. Make sure you come back to the one. You knew exactly what I'm talking about.
That's right.
Funk music is about everyone being individually syncopated. Everyone doing their own rhythm, but everyone coming back to the one. All right? So literally in time, everyone goes their whole year doing whatever you do. You're a journalist, you're an organizer, you're a teacher, you're a stay-at-home mom. Whatever you do it all separately. But on December 26th, we all come back to the one. All right? And so, and Bootsy says that James drove that home. It don't matter what else you do, come back to the one. All right? So even with the kids at the Kwanzaa party the other day, I had them dancing, and everybody was allowed to do whatever dance you wanted, but at the end, you had to end in the beginning, you have to start like this. And just the cohesiveness that it starts. Everybody starts doing this, whatever they do, and they boom. And they get to visually see the power of everybody coming back to the one. You know what I'm saying? And so I wrote a song about it Monday. If I had it memorized, I'd try it right now, but I don't even have that one memorized yet. So it's really been about finding the educational aspects, because I completely believe in holistic teaching. I don't really think you should have separate classes in your classroom, separate subjects. You shouldn't have math, English, science, philosophy. You should have class. Honestly, if you teach history correctly, you don't have to teach any other subject. You know what I'm saying? You teach the history of math, you teach the history of science, you teach the history of language, and then you should be good. And it all should wrap into each other and it should flow. So I'm really blessed. Like I said, once again, the blackity-black homeschool community here in Washington, D.C. trusted me with their children and let me figure out what I was doing with them. And now I'm selling it. So now I'm a Kennedy Center teaching artist. I think I was in 12 different cities last year. And for the most part, they bring me in to teach their teachers how to use what I use in the classroom. Basically, because we're trying to get our young people excited about reading and writing and arithmetic and all that kind of stuff. They already like music, you know what I'm saying? And I was able to point out to them that rapping is the art and engineering of language divided by math. Now, there's another piece I want to do for y'all that's based in my, that I do with my young people. The main thing about a hip-hop MC, and this is another really crucial aspect that I bring to young people, the art of being a hip-hop MC is bragging about yourself. Saying who I am and where I'm from is a great place to be. Ever since the 1970s when they were doing it in the Bronx, it was like where I'm from and what I do is a great place to be a part of. And so I get to bring that to young people. A lot of times they lack confidence. I'll tell you another thing that I learned from doing this. The difference between a kindergartner and a 12th grader, because I teach all grades. The difference between a kindergartner and a 12th grader. A kindergartner will not know the answer and raise their hand. A 12th grader will know the answer and not raise their hand. Somewhere in 4, 5, 6, 7, the enthusiasm to just share your idea, even if you're wrong, starts going away. MCs don't have that problem. MCs like, I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best. And I spend a lot of time giving that confidence back to young people. Not that every idea that they have is great, but that they should be fearless. And they should have their kind of steam, and they should be in the kind of circle where they are unafraid of sharing their ideas. So the example that I give them is a song that I have called My Name Is, and it's about my name, the history of my name. The main thing is to give them an example of what an MC is supposed to do, but here's the second important thing. In this song, there's a whole bunch of references to Africa. I do not expect any of my students to catch any of my references to Africa, but I do expect them when it's over to be like, dang, this guy just spoke for 3 minutes really highly of Africa. I don't know any of these countries, I don't know any of these places, I ain't never been there, but for 3 minutes, he told me he's cool, and the reason that he's cool is because he's connected to Africa. And that's what I want to leave my young people with if they don't catch anything else. So I'm going to share that piece with you, and then I'm going to take only a little bit more of your time, and I'll be done. We'll have some fun with this. All right, help me out. Go 1, 2, 3, peace. 1, 2, 3, peace. 1, 2, 3, peace. My name is Baba Bomani. My flow's a force of nature like a tsunami. My words on paper are 3D like origami. Watch my hip-hop party, stretch your mind and move your body. Baba means father in the language of Yoruba, spoken in countries of Benin, Togo, and Nigeria. His father in Swahili, used in Congo and Rwanda, Burundi, Mozambique, South Africa and Somalia, Tanzania, Kenya, and can't forget Uganda. My African heritage is what I'm very fond of. So I put Baba in my title so you know where I stand the moment of my arrival. In the tradition of rappers of the past, like the Grandmaster title for Grandmaster Kaz, MC for MC Light, even Little for Little Wayne, the Young for Young and A. Baba states in plain, my name is Baba Bomani. 1, 2, 3, peace. My name is Baba Bomani. 1, 2, 3, peace. My name is Baba Bomani. I'm old school in the game like Atari. This is my full-time job, it's not a hobby. To kick it for the kids like Mr. Miyagi doing karate. Now let me tell you something about me. My name comes from the countries of Malawi, Tanzania, Zambia, and even Mozambique. Depends on what indigenous language that they speak. Bomani means warrior to the Ngoni. Yes, it's my real name, I can never be a phony. I changed it 20 years ago, it fits me if you know me. Even changed my last name in a big ceremony. In the tradition of black figures back in the day, like Nsozaki Shange and Kwame Ture, Chokwe Lumumba, El Haj Malik, El Shabazz. Bomani is what I'm known as. My name is Baba Bomani. 1, 2, 3, peace. My name is Baba Bomani. 1, 2, 3, peace. My name is Baba Bomani. My flow rides on the track like a Maserati. Get my speaker from my daddy and my good looks from my mommy, cause I'm a black star like my man Marcus Garvey. My last name is pronounced Armah. From the West African people called the God. From the country of Ghana around the city of Accra. The flag is red, gold, and green with the black star. They took our last names when they brought us across the water, so I looked to Africa to see what names it had to offer, and took my last name from a great Ghanaian author. An African name I can pass on to my daughter, or I can pass it to my sons. They can change it one day, I can't control who they'll become, but when they ask why I do what I've done, I say I'm building a tradition, not resting upon one. My name is Baba Bomani. 1, 2, 3, my name is Baba Bomani. 1, 2, 3.
Peace.
1, 2, 3.
Peace.
Give it up for yourselves. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So that's a very crucial thing, because like I said, I mean, I don't expect kids to catch half the stuff I was saying, but they'd be like, Dad, this dude really respects Africa. And the other thing I noticed is, though, like, the kids say the Pledge of Allegiance every morning, and there's no way they know what that means either. You know what I'm saying? At this stage in their lives, you're just indoctrinating them, and they'll catch on later. Your children are being indoctrinated one way or the other. It's just a matter of which way they're being indoctrinated. And so that's been my blessing. I do that. I'm excited about it. If you ever see me, you want to get me start talking about it and get hyped up, start talking about working with young people. I love the questions y'all were answering earlier. I want to say this about where I think the future is going education-wise. I definitely think that we have to even more now take on what Malcolm X said about not letting your enemy teach your children. All right. Now, I am not going to prescribe homeschooling to everyone, because it takes a whole lot of energy and power and whatever. But I do want you, if you aren't in a position to teach your children in an African-based educational system, then you also need to be telling your children that that's the goal they need to be searching for. All right, we are playing, someone said up here earlier, we're in a generational game. Like, I realize now this has been a tough year for me. I lost my uncle and my father within a month. The two men closest to me, but both of them spent a lot of time telling me about what my job was doing for the next generation. That I'm not gonna see the end of this. What did John Henry Clark say? He said, we must start projects that our grandchildren will finish. All right, so you need to start challenging. Even if your young people are a part of the public school education, they can get a very good education from it. I'm a product of it myself, but we need to supplement that, and we need to challenge our young people and tell them what they're getting their education for. All right, and we need to all make sure we're doing even more repatriation back to Africa. I plan on having a house in Ghana. I already have one in Kenya because I married well. But I'm really excited about going back to the continent as soon as possible. And I really want to challenge everyone to supplement their young people's education and find a way to be holistic with the education. Your young people want to learn. I keep meeting 3rd and 4th graders who their teacher says, this kid, he never pays attention any other time, but when you come in, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, he wants a larger vocabulary. You got to teach him why he wants a larger vocabulary. He wants to know math. You need to teach him why he needs to know math. You know what I'm saying? So you got to figure out how to relate to young people, and I'm glad that we are here in a circle to talk about that. Can I finish with one more song? I want to do this song about Frederick Douglass. I have 3 of them, and shoot, which one do I want to do? This one's probably the most important. This one is called Selfie King. Let me see if I can find this joint. And you can't see it because I didn't bring my projector. But all my songs also come with like lyric videos. And so the kids are reading along. Basically all my concerts with young people are read-alongs, okay? So this song is called Selfie King, and it's based off of a book called Picturing Frederick Douglass. Has anybody seen or heard of this book called Picturing Frederick Douglass? Of course you did, Olu. Thank you. That's why I brought you. Are you De La? Damn. What are y'all, twins? So this song is based on that book. In this book, a bunch of historians gathered all the pictures of Frederick Douglass they could find, and they came up with this interesting fact. Frederick Douglass is the most photographed American of the 19th century. The photograph was invented in 1839. He escaped slavery in 1838. From 1839 till he died in 1895, no human on this side of the water had their picture taken more often than him. Now the question is why? What did Frederick Douglass do for a living? For a living, he promoted the idea that black abolition of slavery needs to happen. So he tried to spread his image of himself and an image of blackness as far and as wide as possible. He would sell pictures of himself everywhere. He would sit for a new photo every time he went and sell pictures of himself as a fundraiser so people could see a dignified black man who spoke well and advocated for his people. He felt that it was his job. He also wrote 3 autobiographies, published 2 newspapers, and was the world's most famous public speaker when he died. A lot of people wonder now, like, why we don't know that. In the book, they talk about how the decline of Frederick Douglass in history books can be also marked adversely to the rise of Confederate statues in America. is a very, very intentional, let's erase this guy. It's like it was Lincoln and Douglas in popularity like that. But if you ask my grandparents, they wouldn't have known that because they just got mentioned Frederick Douglass as like an offhand thing, right? So I think Frederick Douglass would have been a great MC. His job, first of all, he was from Southeast, you know what I'm saying? Like, he has this confidence about him that you can't, you know what I'm saying, you can't get just anywhere, right?
That's right.
But he really his whole life was about promoting himself and his people, where he's from. The same thing rappers were doing in the Bronx. So I wrote this song called Selfie King, and I'm gonna need your help on the chorus. All right, here's how it goes. When I say Selfie King, I need you to say, pick out my fro, and do that move. All right, so it goes, Selfie King, pick out my fro, Selfie King.
Pick out my fro.
Alright, let's have some fun with this. Introducing the world famous, gotta get my gangster lean, newspaper publisher, public speaker, and the most photographed American of the 19th century, Frederick Douglass. You see my suit, it cost some dough. Fresh and clean, don't you know I need a crown for this photo? So let me pick out my fro, Selfie King. 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 Pick out my fro. I see you wanna floss on the gram, get a little fame with your little phone. The 1800s, freshest in the land. Let me tell you kind of selfie game I was on. America's most popular. I mean for real, best-selling autobiographer. Worst paid of bills given, racist insomnia. House on the hill, self-taught lexicographer. That means I've got worse skills, flexing for the photographer. Black and white steels is how we do it in Anacostia with an old school ice grill. See my suit, cost some dough. Fresh and clean, don't you know I need a crown for this photo? So let me pick out my fro, Selfie King. 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 Pick out my fro. Cash and speaking fees, royalties, and federal checks. My son's a Civil War vet. Name one president that I haven't met. Could be at an all-white function, not talking clothes, breaking necks. Slim, I'm on the front porch listening to string quartets. It's confidence, not arrogance. From Southeast, most famous resident, more famous than the president. Look at the pics if you want evidence. Took advantage of every opportunity. Despite racists try to do to me, the ambassador to Haiti, the U.S. recruited me. I got real diplomatic community. You see my suit, cost some dough. Fresh and clean, don't you know I need a crown for this photo? So let me pick out my fro, Selfie King. 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 Pick out my fro. Yes, I'm a free man. Think you stopping one of my plans? Punishment is severe, will knock you out where you stand. Slave owners read my book, my haters are my biggest fans. Overseers could read Braille, still can't see me with the hands. Be flexing on them hard, showing off with bravery. Flexing so many pics with the squad, they try to send me back slavery. There's one thing that got me tripping like Amory. Are you everything your pictures of you claim to be? I'm the speaker that they came to see. No one had more claim than me. No one had a bigger name than me. No one alive at the time had more fame than me. Not a player that was in the same game as me. Everyone posed looking aimlessly. I stared in the camera shamelessly, so you can see no one's taming me. You see my suit, cost some dough. Fresh and clean, don't you know I need a crown for this photo? So let me pick out my fro, Selfie King. Pick out my fro, Selfie King. Selfie King. Selfie King. You see my suit, it cost some dough. Fresh and clean, don't you know I need a crown for this photo? So let me pick out my fro, Selfie King. Selfie King. Selfie King. Selfie King. Thank y'all very much. Give it up for yourselves. That's my time. I'm Habari Ghani, Ujima. I hope y'all enjoying y'all Kwanzaa. Thank you very much, Sam Ras, for having me here.
Let's give Bro Bomani another hand, y'all. Family. So, we got some time left. So, before we open up the floor for audience Q&A, first of all, how many of y'all got questions? Who asked questions, y'all? Oh, they answered all y'all questions? Answered all y'all questions? Nah, some of y'all got questions. We can take at least 2 or 3 if that's cool, you know. But before we get into the Q&A, I want to do some housekeeping here. First of all, we got some books out front. They're free, right? reading is fundamental, you know, and this is by means of the Sharnice Milton book initiative, bookstore rather that they have here. Sharnice Milton was a reporter.